Let me introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their tough core, click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com, or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant. Iowa Floor Covering proudly sponsoring our coverage here on a Monday afternoon in Iowa basketball country. We welcome a good friend to the show, Mr. Tony Schneider, who is dressed for the occasion. Tony.
Afternoon? Where are you at?
It's afternoon. Man, it seems like it's been a long day already. You like how I pulled out the old script hat?
Yeah.
I'm occasion.
I'm hoping that, with a change, sometimes you see uniform changes. I'm hoping that the uniform changes. The gold script is the permanent home uniform.
Okay. Yeah. There's a Ben McCollum. Hey, it fits the Ben. I just now put together why you have a white a gold tie on. I guess I could do that. I probably have a gold tie and I've got plenty of white shirts. So, yeah. Folks, if you're just joining us and you're just catching the news, this was something that we expected here over the last 36 hours. 36 hours. I believe I shared it with our premium members. What was that? Saturday?
Saturday night, like 10, 11 o'clock. Yeah.
But still nothing is official until it's official from Iowa. Yep. And Iowa makes it official today with the announcement that Ben McCollum is the program's next head coach. And, of course, what a run here in the NCAA tournament for Drake. I know it was just one win. But when you look at what they did in year one with a roster that was totally overhauled in year one with a guy who had never coached D1 basketball, he comes to Drake, replaces Darian DeVries, who had left for West Virginia, who was, by the way, he's since left for Indiana. And, basically everybody on the team was new. He brings in his star player from Northwest Missouri State, where he had been coaching prior to his stint at Drake. And, of course, Bennett Sturts was phenomenal in the NCAA tournament, brought them an MVC title win. He won Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. And, again, just phenomenal accomplishments and resume for 1 year in D1 basketball. And the Hawkeyes have hired Ben McCollum. Now, my first question to you, Tony, because I've got my thoughts on this and I'll share them in a second. But my first question to you is, now we go back to when we first got the official news that Fran McCaffrey was not being retained. Mm-hmm. And my question to you is this a better hire than Darian DeVries in hindsight, now that we've seen what Ben McCollum did in the tournament? Now, it's not like he made – let's make it sound very clear. It's not like he made a run to the second weekend or anything like that. They did lose in the second round. But I think we were all impressed with the two games we saw against Missouri and against was it Texas Tech? Who did they lose to?
Texas
Tech. So hindsight, 2020, you have both these candidates side by side. I know you're a homebody. You're a homer, so you're probably going to say McCollum. But Darian DeVries or Ben McCollum now in hindsight?
I always thought that DeVries was the better short-term and Ben was the better long-term. And the reason I say that is I did not think at the time when, and you're asking me to go retrospectively, I did not think at the time when Fran got fired that there was a chance that Sturts would come with Ben to Iowa. Now that's picking up a lot of steam. That Sturts
Why did you think there was not a chance of that?
There was rumors out there because he's dating a girl who goes to Kansas State. I know. I'm telling you. You're asking me for at Kansas State. Let's be honest. Kansas State paid a lot of people a lot of money this year. They have very deep. I mean, Coleman Hawkins was getting paid what, $2 million, I think, from them, or 1.5. They have deep pockets, and our NIL is reported. We didn't even have that total as a team 1.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what I thought is Sturts would be a senior. He could go there and get paid. Now it sounds like he's probably going to be following Ben.
My
So
question is not
that's
whether,
why I thought Darian was better short term, but Ben was long term. So go ahead.
but that has not happened yet, I don't believe.
What part?
Because the portal window just opened this morning, but Tucker DeVries is likely following Darian.
Yes.
So
yes.
I could say those two things cancel out.
Yeah.
Unless you just favor one, unless you just favor either Sturts over DeVries. I mean, I don't know. I think those are each phenomenal players.
I just didn't think there was I didn't think it was that strong a likelihood a week ago that Sturts would follow Ben. Now knowing, if you would say a week ago which package deal is better for this year, it could be a push, or you could even lean Sturts. With McCollum.
I think you lean Sturts, and I'll tell you why I think you lean Sturts. I think Iowa has a better chance of retaining front court than back court.
Yes, based off of who's entered the portal and who is more likely to come back and less likely to come back.
I'm not saying that I'm promoting Logi Dembele to return and Seydou Traore. By the way, Traore never entered the portal.
Nope. There's only 3 of them that I think they never was Traore, Isaiah Johnson, Orignu, and Carter Kingsbury.
I would assume that means those guys were just waiting to hear what the announcement was, because they've got plenty of time to enter the portal.
Yeah.
That seems odd to me that Traore wouldn't have entered the portal. But
Iowa Twitter just made it official.
I thought they made it official like an hour ago.
Well, they just said, well, they did a big, not the locker room thing. This is another one that just came out.
Yeah, we didn't know what the locker room, the shirt and the tie meant, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know what that meant an hour ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know where this conversation is going to go. Whenever I schedule these streams last minute, and that's kind of what this was. Again, I was just hoping, Tony, I shared this with you yesterday morning. I was just hoping that this news wouldn't officially break Sunday. And I was hoping it would not break this afternoon, because this stream would not have been possible for me early in the afternoon.
If it didn't break by this time, I was going to get worried, because Beth's flight leaves in about 40 minutes.
For Oklahoma?
Yeah. If it didn't break by about this time in the morning, I was going to start to get a little worried, just because she was going to be out of town. But, stuff started picking up towards the end of the day, yesterday. And it sounds like it was all done last night. And, I will respect to say that it was probably delayed a little, because he probably wanted to let his team know and contact all the Iowa players.
Yeah.
Those things take time. It wasn't just, because, rewind a week ago, we were talking, the coaches didn't even find out until social media when how Fran got fired. So this is almost
I think this is a good. Here's what I want to do. By the way, we got several people waiting on hold. I want to say this. I think a good exercise to do here in the first hour of this show, and I plan on being here till at least noon. But a good exercise for the first hour of this show. Now that we have this officially from Iowa, and I'd been expecting this for 2 days, but as you brought up, if it wasn't announced this morning, there would have been concern. And I didn't even know about the flight. But the other part of this is the portal. Portal window opened this morning. That's a factor. So Iowa, they had somebody responded to me on Twitter last night when I reposted something about the portal opening. They're like, we don't even have a head coach. I'm like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. So I understand that. Anyways, but I think a good topic for conversation here in the first hour is, what are the next questions that we need answered? What are the most pressing questions ahead of us? And I think one of those is going to be, who can Iowa retain? Who can Ben McCollum retain on the current roster? Who does he want to retain on the current roster? That would be one. The second one I would have is, who does he bring with him from the Drake roster? Obviously, we all want Bennett Sturts, but who else from that roster? I saw the question from ZJ in the chat. So we'll address that. And then I think going a step further, when you look at style of play, I wonder too, coaching staff wise, does he I don't think, first of all, I think the ship has sailed on Tristan Spurlock, on
Yes.
Obviously, Sherm Dillard.
Tristan and Courtney for sure.
Yeah.
I've heard.
I think the big question is Matt Gatens, and I don't even know that has anything to do with style of play. Honestly, I just think he's a great Iowa guy. And by the way, he's coached at Drake as well, not with McCollum, but he coached at Drake as an assistant. But he would be a guy. I mean, don't you think, Tony? He's got to be in consideration for an assistant coaching role.
Yeah, the way I understand it is he's the one running it pretty much right now. He's the only one that's on, like he's the contact point.
Yeah,
Gatens is. Also, 3:30 tomorrow.
3:30 what?
3:30 tomorrow is the presser for McCollum. They're not doing the press conference till 3:30 tomorrow.
That's going to be interesting for me.
I'm doing, and that was Gary Dolphin, so I think that's probably about as real. I don't think Gary's going to mistweet something. That's Gary Dolphin's Twitter. So, but yeah, 3:30 tomorrow. But no, to answer your question,
okay.
Yeah, Gatens, his top assistant has Iowa connections as well. Everyone knows the last name Sash, and it's Tyler Sash's brother is Ben McCollum's top assistant.
So yeah, I know he's on the staff. I really don't know a lot about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about his resume. How long has he actually been on the Drake staff?
He was with Ben. He followed Ben.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Obviously, he's only there a year. Yeah. Assuming. Okay, so he was only there a year. That's interesting. I don't know that. So McCollum makes that jump. Does that automatically mean that his other guys made that? Did he bring anybody else with him from Northwest Missouri State that you know of?
I think he brought the whole staff. Josh Sash. Josh Sash is his first name.
Yeah. So my guess is he'll pull. My guess is unless there's somebody else on that. If he brought the whole staff, and I'm not aware of that. I've not researched this. It looks like you are, but if he brought the whole staff from Northwest Missouri State, there's no way he's going to bring that whole staff to Iowa. That's not. No, I don't think that's reasonable.
There's a rumor report out there that and I don't know. I haven't even looked into this guy because I want to make sure McCollum was official, but McCollum's kid goes to Hawkeyes Northwest, I think it is, and their head coach was being talked about that he could possibly be on the staff. Now, in what form, I don't know. That's the thing is the staffs have now expanded to 5 assistant coaches. You can have this GM now. Who's going to be his quote unquote GM? Because you need like Iowa football is Tyler Barnes. The basketball team is going to need someone like that too. What is Tyler Barnes's official title? Is it GM or what do they call him for the football team?
I don't know. I think of him as the recruiting coordinator still. I don't think of him as some GM, but yeah.
That's what they're calling it. And it used to be director of basketball operations, but now they're calling them GMs because they're managing the NIL. They're managing, these coaches already got enough. Now they got to, like Fran said, he did an interview a couple of days ago. He's like, in the middle of the season, I was getting calls about, hey, would you be interested in so-and-so next year? And Fran's like, I'm coaching a team. Like these coaches don't want, they're getting bothered mid-season, not only about their players transferring out, but other coaches saying, would you be interested in this guy? So it's both ways. So you got to have some type of contact person nowadays, just because that's the way the portal is.
And then my next question, and again, I want to focus mainly on the future here, but my next question to some of the people that literally, like, I hope some people look in the mirror and reflect on the last week, because there were people after the Darian DeVries news went official, Darian DeVries to Indiana, that literally, and I believe them to be genuine, were crying about how Beth didn't have anything in place. She fired Fran prematurely. It was the wrong decision. They fired a great human being, which, by the way, I'm not debating that Fran's a good human being. That's not my point. But these people that, as soon as that news broke, it was just everything was a mistake. And we are so in the moment that we can't see the forest through the trees. And I wonder if the people that felt that way then feel this way now. And if they don't, have a good look in the mirror. Because you can't convince me in any way, shape, or form, Tony, that if I had to do this, now that I know they've got Ben McCollum, if they had to do all of this all over, that I would retain Fran. No way on this green earth would I retain Fran McCaffrey knowing that they have Ben McCollum? No way.
I'm gonna say that I was one of those people that said, look, if we don't hire, and I said, if we don't hire Ben, then Beth dropped the ball. I
Sure,
made the
they did hire Ben.
qualifier of, hey, look, it's looking like we're gonna drop the ball here if we don't hire Ben.
But they did hire Ben.
But no, I'm saying at the time, like I was one of those people
Sure.
reacting that way that Beth was gonna drop the ball. Like, because it looked very bad that, hey, Darian saying, look, you guys have no money. That was his public pushback comment of, there's no NIL there. Like, I can't go there. Now, also, Darian was in contact with Indiana. It was an uphill battle. It was definitely an uphill battle about Iowa trying to get Ben. I think we were losers from the start, if we want to be honest about it. It sounds like Indiana was in contact with DeVries in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Like, so right. I mean, I don't think that was it, but it's something that DeVries would have been the home run hire. Obviously, I think Ben McCollum gained steam, and I think Beth could have been, at the time, if we didn't get Ben, yeah, that sentiment could have held true. Now, should we have been patient and made sure? 100%. But
yeah, but they did hire Ben, and we don't know what conversations had been had prior to France firing. I mean, we don't know that Ben McCollum wasn't Beth Getz's first choice in the first place. We don't know that.
I have heard that it's the rumblings obviously were that Beth always wanted Ben. It was whether she could sell it to the donors, was what I've heard. Now,
the donors, what donors? I mean,
they've gained steam. I'll tell you what, they have. I mean, the way I understand it is they've almost doubled what their budget was. Now, doubling from where they were to where they are now just makes it a little respectable, but it sounds like there has been drummed up interest 100%. Now, we're on to McCollum, Yeah. Let's see what happens.
All right, let's we're going to add some people into the conversation here because, again, we got several people want to chat about this. And, of course, if you have any questions or comments, share your 2 cents and your thoughts on this this hire. And, of course, those questions that I brought up earlier. Who does Iowa retain off the Iowa roster and staff potentially? Could they retain Matt Gatens? I think they will, but I have not had a conversation with Matt. I've not had a conversation certainly with Ben, but that's just my 2 cents. I think it'd be a smart move given the number of assistants you can have. Who does Ben McCollum bring over from Drake as it relates to players and coaching staff? Certainly Sturtz would be at the top of the list of your wish list. And then who else fills the staff? Who else fills the roster? How active can Ben McCollum be in the portal today? I think he's going to have to be really active. And here's the other thing. I think it's pretty clear he may not have his whole staff in place. He's got to have somebody. He's got to have somebody that's working the portal right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he can be the guy doing that right away. I mean, I think he's going to have to be to some extent, but boy, can you imagine the circumstances? You're going to be announced. You were just announced officially by Iowa today. You're going to be announced in front of a podium tomorrow, but the portal also opened today and you said goodbye to your other team yesterday. So it's a difficult situation for Ben McCollum. So my hope is that he's got at least a couple of guys. And that's why I hope Matt Gatens is one of them, because Matt Gatens is already there. And hopefully he can work the portal. Hopefully he's working the portal right now. And he's in communication.
I almost wonder too, was part of that conversation to both Drake and, well, especially the Drake players, like Ben telling each of the Drake players, hey, I'm going to Iowa. Do you want to come with me? Like, Bennett Sturtz, do you want to come with me? Some of the other guys, there's about 4 of them that I'd like to have, including Sturtz. And then also calling every single Iowa player. I mean, you still call Owen, you still call Brock, even though I'm going to say both those guys are as gone as gone. You still call them and say, hey, do you want to come play with me? You got to call Dix. You got to call Stanford. You got to call, even Laji, who's in the portal. You still got to reach out to him. And whether you're saying, and I'm not saying, especially with Laji, I'm not saying that he's going to invite Laji back, but you at least got to let him know, hey, I'm the new coach now.
Yeah.
Now, each conversation is different. Like, do we want you? This is what we can give you, blah, 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 blah. But I think Ben does not seem like a guy who's going to get caught with his pants down, quote unquote. I think he has everything lined up. The other rumor I heard was the Drock kid. Is that how you say his name? He's Mr. Basketball, JIRK. I think he's at one of the Des Moines schools. He was committed to play at Drake, or maybe he signed with UNI. It was UNI or Drake, but he's reached out to him. Okay. I was Mr. Basketball, this Drock kid. So,
all right, we're going to get to all this, and the super chats are going to be prioritized this afternoon. Thank you already to Lemansky for throwing up a super chat. He says, last week I said, in Beth I trust, let's get behind the Hawks. So thank you, Lemansky, and thank you to everybody who is donating or contributing today here on the show, on the program. Let's see here. Let's make sure I don't see anything there. Let's go to our next caller. We got Doug, who is here early. Doug, I know you're a happy man this afternoon or this morning.
I'm very optimistic. Yeah, the Valley kid, Travis, whatever his last name is. You guys know how bad I am with names. Is supposedly going to decommit from UNI to come with Ben.
Jirok or something like that.
Yeah, he was Mr. Valley. I went down to that Valley Ames game, and my little Cyclones gonna beat Valley, but give him a good shot. He's very good, and I did not know why Fran didn't offer him in the first place, and we might get a lot of those type of guys. Why didn't Fran offer that guy type moments? So one of the good things in the portal is you can go back around and get those guys that you missed on. A lot of people don't realize a lot of guys are transferring up, and a lot of guys are transferring down. So, I'm very thrilled about our roster. I think as far as other players from the Drake, all 5 of the players that had eligibility that played the last 2 games should be coming with Ben. That's what I would look at. The 2 Wyoming transfers, I love Tavian Banks. We had Tavian Banks just in football. That guy could rebound. That guy would have been our best rebounder this year. And he's the same size as Peyton. Tavian Banks would have been the best rebounder. The Drake player would have been the best rebounder on this Iowa team this year. So that's including Owen. Owen wasn't a ball hawk, and he's not going to be wherever he goes. There's in the movie Hoosiers, and rest his soul, Gene Hackman, there's a line where he says, cheer for who we are, not for who we're not. And those guys, they're gone. And Dix might be one that might stay, but he's maybe too much money, Yeah, I was
gonna say, where I think wishful thinking was,
exactly. That's what I was getting. He's too much money.
On what green earth do we believe that Josh Dix is going to stick around? Tony, do you have any reason to think Josh Dix is going to stick around? He's one of the few guys that I don't even believe he said anything about staying at Iowa. Like, he's not even keeping that open in his statement.
The only way I could see him stick around is if he likes the rest of the roster construction and believes that him and Sturts could provide a very powerful 1-2 punch, that he could give it one last go at Iowa. And Iowa has to be very competitive. The 3 schools that I heard that are after
Michigan State, Auburn?
No, the 3 I heard were Creighton, Kansas, and Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, I saw the Kentucky one last. Yeah. The first initial one, I think
Creighton's the most obvious one. I don't think he's going to Kansas or Kentucky. I think it's Creighton and Iowa.
Well, I don't know what his valuation is, but don't we all believe that Josh Dix is probably going to make high 6 figures wherever he goes for 1 year?
1.5,
maybe.
1.5? You think he's going to get 1.5 for 1 year?
Wow.
If he's going to get if he's going to go get 1.5, then see you later, because Iowa can't afford to pay him 1.5.
I was bet it's close to that. What do you think? What Hunter got paid this year?
No, I don't know.
Didn't deserve it.
$100 million got paid $2 million.
Yeah, and
how many NCAA tournament games did he win again?
Yeah.
How many NCAA tournament games did he win again?
Doug, do me a favor. You're way behind. It's
lagging. Nope, it was
his lag.
I think something was with it. It had to be something with this feed, because, and I'm not saying it personally. I'm just saying it had to be something with this feed. And the way I say that is because the screen was blur, like it was fuzzy, so it was everything was trying to catch up.
Yeah, but it wasn't catching up. It wasn't catching up. So Doug, come back here in a second, and we'll continue our conversation there. We got Ryan here on the line who says Ben McCollum was his first choice all along. Ryan, welcome.
Gentlemen, what a great day this is.
What a great day it is.
Tony, you're looking sharp as can be. You're probably wearing shorts underneath.
I am.
What's your business?
I am.
You're looking good, man. Looking
Thanks.
good. Both of you. Great hat. Yeah, I've been texting with my Hoosier friend for the past week or so, and I told him, God, probably 10 minutes after I found out about Fran, he was texting me about it, and I said, McCollum's my guy. He was asking me questions about McCollum as well. And I basically said, Iowa can't go wrong with 1A McCollum, 1B DeVries. I would be happy with either. And then, of course, this is back when McCollum was really the only guy out of those two he thought was even in the mix. They did a really good job hiding what they were. Indiana did a good job, kind of not making DeVries putting his name out there very much. So I don't think this could be any better. If you think about it, what if Iowa hired a D3 coach who won some national championships, then went to a mid-major with barely over a 500 record for 2 seasons, and we hired him? We would probably have a mutiny. But that's exactly what the Wisconsin Badgers did with Bo Ryan. And look at how that turned out. So the upside is just enormous here. And also, I think we're going to recruit the kind of player that lends itself to winning at Iowa. I felt for a long time, if we're going to get Sweet 16s again, we need a little more of that 75-62 type of victory versus putting 90 up but giving 95 up. What do you guys think?
Well, I saw somebody earlier in the chat say, I hope this isn't Licklider ball. Like, I don't know where that comes from. Where does that come from?
I think it is because if you look at the advanced metrics for this year, Drake is the slowest. One of the slowest, if not the slowest teams in adjusted tempo. But I've watched, I've dove into this stuff as soon as it was becoming almost official. McCollum plays to what he has on his roster.
Exactly.
He's going to make it work with whatever he has. I was one of those in the beginning that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want this. Like, I'm looking at Drake and they're playing games that fit. I don't want to go back to Todd Licklider. I don't want to see, what was it when we beat Michigan State 40-36? Yeah, we beat them, but like, holy cow, that was like tearing my eyeballs out.
Tony, the score was 43-32. Thank you.
Sorry, but
33-32.
The point still, you know what I mean. But like,
yes.
I don't want to watch that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's successful.
Didn't Tom Izzo say that was the low point in his career?
Probably.
Didn't he say that afterward the game? I'm pretty sure he did.
Probably. Do you care if I just pipe in with stuff that I keep seeing on Twitter's? Like,
no, go for it.
Portal. Nate Calmese. Remember the Washington State guard? He is in the portal.
Okay.
He was the kid with the like the wavy hair, their guard who pretty much lit us up. He scored 27 on us when we played them in the Mark. Yeah, Wazoo was the team we played at the Mark, right? Washington State was the Mark game.
The Mark, yeah.
Not the Mark. It's what is it called now? I don't know. What do they call it?
Vibrant.
The Vibrant Center. I'm sorry. You know what I meant when I said the Mark. They played him at the Vibrant Center. He's in the portal. He's a guard.
Okay.
So I'm obviously living a little east of the state of Iowa, so I'm not really dialed in. But am I understanding that the Mr. Basketball is a 6'10" kid out of Valley, and he's likely to be coming to Iowa now?
Yep. Drop.
Have we talked to him, or is this just scuttlebutt?
There is a lot of smoke to that was one of the calls that Ben made. Like it through back channels, people have said Ben made contact with him and said, "There's a possibility I'm coming to Iowa. Would you come to Iowa with me?" Like to this Gerard kid.
Well, and like my comment shows there, we still technically have this Diakite.
Yeah, Diakite.
Diakite. Yeah, I never. It's going to take me a while to pronounce that one correctly, but
yeah. I would bet Gary Dolphin's hoping he does not stay with us.
Well,
no.
Gary Dolphin screws up names that aren't Smith, right?
Yeah, how's Gary Dolphin done with Traore and Dembele? And
so realistically speaking, you got to assume Bennett stays or transfers in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tavian Banks is a very good possibility of coming over. From our current roster, Cooper.
The Manua kid, or how do you say it? Manny, Manyawu.
Oh, right. Yes.
Cam number 3. Yeah. I would bet he comes with. And who was the other one I saw? Yeah, but Banks,
Howard. Isaiah Howard.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
He would have 3 years left.
Yeah, because he's a freshman. But those are the 4 that I've heard.
So if you got those 4, and let's say the guy I just mentioned comes over, and then you got the Valley kid coming over. If we can maybe even, let's hope we can get Price to stay put, and maybe even Cooper, who's a legacy.
Real quick. I know I just want to share this real quick because I didn't share with the premium members, and it may be out there other places, Tony, and you're on all the boards. I'm not on any boards. Just have my little group of sources myself. But I was told Saturday that if Ben McCollum was hired and it looked like that was happening, that Price was likely staying. So I expect Price Sanford to stay put. I don't know what you've heard, Tony, but I heard that I'm pretty good authority on Saturday.
There's a lot of connections there. Yep. Waukee Northwest, right? Isn't that the school he went to? And that's where Ben's kid goes. And so, there's a lot of crossover with that. And I have heard that as well. The only one that, it doesn't sound, the one that's trending worse and worse as the days go by is Dix. I'm not even counting Owen and Josh. I'm not even counting Owen and Brock. I think they're already gone. But Dix, it sounds like it's just trending, going to be out of our budget. You got to reach out, but it just doesn't sound good.
I don't have interest in retaining Brock. I don't
either. Yeah.
I just don't. I just don't. And I know people are going to rip me, and I know he's getting attention from some high major programs. He's not getting attention from Blue Bloods, but he's getting attention from other P4 programs, and that's great. I don't, and I also don't know that he fit the Ben McCollum system.
No.
That is all about defense, and you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain guys that just aren't going to fit because physically, I think he's going to struggle to defend anywhere and everywhere he goes. Some guys are going to be able to be. I think Price Sanford can turn into a decent defender. I think
of it you could tell could be coaching, and some of it you could tell could not be coaching. I don't think it's coaching with Brock. I think Price, it could be coaching. I think he has the tools to be good. You know who would fit perfect this year for 1 year would have been Thelwell. I think Thelwell would fit into Ben's system.
Well, and there's an example. Boy, I wish the NCAA would change their eligibility rules and we could get Thelwell back. But there's an example of the type of kid that Ben McCollum's going to have to go for. Is somebody from a Morehead State that many people overlook, but is a winner. And that's where you got to give Fran McCaffrey kudos for finding some of those guys, not just out of high school, but out of the portal. Bakari Evelyn's another good example. Now, he wasn't as dynamic as Drew Thelwell. He's a solid portal ad. Who's the other kid that they added? Rabracha is another one. Hey, Ben Krikke maybe wasn't as impactful as Rabracha, but if they had not had Ben Krikke last year, they'd have really struggled on the inside as Owen Freeman got acclimated.
He didn't do anything major, but I think Bakari Evelyn provided solid depth.
Yeah.
He was needed at the time when he came in. He wasn't anything program changing, but
I agree.
Just a couple things. I met Fran 3 times, and I always found him to be just incredibly personable when, he kind of makes you feel like the most important guy in the room when you're talking to him. He's very thoughtful in his answers when you ask him questions. And so, I've never been a Fran hater by any stretch. And yeah, I lived through 3 years of lick lighter and whatnot. I graduated from the University of Iowa about 2 weeks after Kirk Ferentz was named head coach of the football team. I graduated in December of 1998. And I was barely in the workforce when Iowa made it to its last Sweet 16. I can tell you, as much as I personally do like Fran, we were never going to go to a Sweet 16 because we never had good enough guard play and we never played a lick of defense. And I think that ultimately was his fatal flaw, is he had a problem with defense forever and never truly addressed it. Teams that do well in the NCAA tournament tend to play defense with good guard play. I'm not a bit worried about Josh Dix, whether he stays or goes or roster turnover. Look at Wisconsin. They lose A.J. Storr to Kansas. They lose Chucky Hepburn to Louisville, and they were better than ever. I know they lost by a couple yesterday, but still they had a phenomenal season and they were a basket or two away from making the Sweet 16 themselves. And it can be done. Basketball is different than football in that you can do very quick fixes. I have no doubt Iowa will be right there in the mix at the very top for years and years to come with this hire. He's absolutely always been my number one choice. I could not be happier. I really couldn't. So kudos to Beth. I don't think if Gary Barta was still our AD, we would have be having this celebration. But I'm working from home today. But after we get off work, I'm going to hopefully have some celebratory at the bar with Iowa beating Oklahoma and this hire. It just couldn't be a better day, guys.
Well, let's hope they beat Oklahoma. But Ryan,
hey, speaking of that, Jan Jensen already tweeted out her support already. 12 minutes ago. McCollum. Yep. Like, welcome to the family. And she said, we're going to take care of business this afternoon and we'll see you back at Carver.
Sir, some coaches just plain know how to win. Yeah. And when you hear things, what really sold me is when I saw Chris Hassel mention that coaches like Grant McCausland and other more established coaches that are in the NCAA tournament go to Ben McCollum for advice because he's just kind of an X's and O's savant. Kind of what you said, Tony. He knows how to win with what he has, and that's what we really need versus somebody who's just, this is my system and I'm going to die on that hill.
How long until the fire Ben McCollum chance start at Carver?
I don't think it's going to happen because he's going to win.
Well,
you know why they won't happen, because everyone's going to be dressed like me, and when you're dressed this professional, you're not going to yell fire somebody. You're just going to be a straight business person.
I wonder what effect that will have on some of the people in the media. Will it have any effect on some of the people in the media?
What do you mean?
I just feel like media people in general, I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but media and people in general don't know how to dress. Don't know how to dress for press.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Events.
Oh, yep.
And I am a traditionalist as it relates to dress.
I can vouch for that. The 2 times I saw you attend
that's and we're talking about, but I'm just saying that's how I wonder if that I appreciated Fran McCaffrey in his earlier days when he showed up in a shirt, suit, and tie. And Ben McCollum is still that guy, and I appreciate that about him. But
hey, George Raveling wore sweatpants when everyone else were in ties except for Knight.
Yeah.
Ryan, appreciate you being here, sir. We'll talk.
Hey, guys. A little music you need to be playing. Led Zeppelin, Dancing Days Are Here Again.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Good stuff. Bob Hoffman brings up the coaching that he observed during the NCAA tournament with Ben McCollum on the sidelines. And of course, Josh asks, am I going to be doing a hangout after the women's win? Well, of course, we'll do a post game after the game with myself and Kashin, as always. And OS for Hawks, who's also waiting to get on the air, says, I'm from DeVries' hometown. I can assure you that everyone that Tucker DeVries' injury is not legit.
I can assure everyone that Tucker's injury is 100% legit.
Oh, he's 100% legit. I'm sorry. 100%.
Well, okay. Now let me comment on that. It may be legit, but it's probably as legit as Owen Freeman's injury was. And what I mean by that is, could either of them played through it? Probably. But if they knew they could get an extra year because they were at that point already, they may want an extra year.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to. Well, first of all, I want to share a. Got 2 or 3 screens going here. I want to share the latest from. This is from Craig Doty. Now, if people don't know who Craig Doty is, I can explain this. Craig Doty was the head coach at Emporia State, and of course, Emporia State was a very, very high major D2 program as well. So let me there we go. It's a better view. And now he's the head coach at Houston Christian. Now, I did see somebody earlier in the chat say, well, why don't they go get Doty as an assistant coach? Here's the, and I understand where it's coming from. I don't believe going from a D1 head coaching job in Texas to an assistant role under a brand new head coach at Iowa is a step up. Perfect example is Billy Taylor taking the job at Elon a few years ago. Correct, Tony?
Yep.
He went to Elon.
Yep.
So, no, that's not happening. But Craig Doty is a respected person in the profession and knows Ben McCollum personally. And here's what Craig Doty just tweeted out a few days ago about Ben McCollum. He says, and I quote, again, head coach at Houston Christian, former head coach at Emporia State. I coached against Ben McCollum across 6 seasons. We built our roster and our defensive system with the goal of taking them down. While we beat them 3 times in a row, they always flexed greater, winning final 4. Flexed greater, winning final. Excuse me, I can't read this morning. Flex greater, winning 4 D2 national championships and beating us a large majority of the time. There's no team we studied more as a staff than McCollum's teams. Here's what he does better than most coaches in the country. Point guard development. Ben McCollum is to college basketball what Andy Reid is to NFL football. Now, that's a huge statement.
Yeah.
I'll just say that right now. Reid is considered the best QBs coach in developing people like Donovan McNabb, Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes. If you think Bennett Sturts is good for Drake, you should have seen McCollum's point guard, Trevor Hudgens, who is a 2-time National Player of the Year, who signed and played with the Houston Rockets. Before Hudgens was National Player of the Year, Justin Pitts. Simply put, McCollum always has the best point guard in the country. He develops them, and they play the entire game. Sturts leads the country at 39.4 minutes per game. Hudgens was at 37.7. McCollum's methodical and controlled style of play protects them from injury, and their team defense protects them from foul trouble. Sturts was a second-team all-conference player in our D2 league last season. He is now one of the best players in the country in D1 and a serious NBA prospect. No one develops point guards better than McCollum. I'll continue. Team defense. No one gets players who shouldn't be able to guard to be better on D than McCollum. Mitch Mascari should get blown by every possession. I'm sorry. I love that statement. Daniel Abreu shouldn't be able to guard 6'10 plus big men. Bennett Sturts to be attacked off the bounce constantly to wear him out and get him in foul trouble. Opposing coaches know these things and try them, but it doesn't work well. McCollum's best and most underrated strength is coaching team defense. Anybody getting goosebumps? His guys are tough, physical, legal, smart, play for each other in the gaps, take pride in winning their individual defensive matchup, and they don't get tired. Plus, he always has one bona fide elite on-ball defender on his roster. See Isaiah Jackson and Diego Bernard to shut down elite guards. He's also a shot developer. Many college coaches don't develop or change their players' jump shots. Shots typically get worse for months at a time before they get better, and most players are stubborn or not there long enough before transitioning to their next school. McCollum develops shooters. One example is Mascari. Here is his shooting splits over the past 5 seasons. And you see the numbers. improving from 26% to 33% to 47% to 48%. And as a graduate, he dropped a little bit, but 41% from three. It isn't just Mascari. A key reason Sturz went from second team all conference at the D2 level to Larry Bird MVP of the Missouri Valley is because of his improved perimeter shot. His last season in D2, he was 33% from three. This season at Drake, he's 40%. He's perhaps shooting 80% from three on big shots too, which is ridiculous. For perhaps McCollum's best shot development job, see Ryan Hawkins, who starred for 4 years at NWMS before transferring and being all Big East at Creighton his final season. He's also a master in-game manipulator. As Ben's former assistant coach, Austin Meyer, says, you'll play the game the way Ben McCollum wants you to play. I've never seen her coached against someone who manipulates pace of play the way Ben does. He can play his point guard the entire game as a result. Most players don't want to play this way. It's slow, sometimes boring. It's controlled. There isn't a lot of freedom, and the point guard usage rate is amongst the highest in the country. However, McCollum's innate ability to identify selfless, no-ego players during the recruiting process allows him to get the buy-in needed to operate this way and at his pace. Press them, just speed them up. Good luck with that. Now he continues here. By the way, to go back up this further, I know this is probably gonna bother some people.
What about it?
Well, right here, right?
Oh,
this statement here. I mean, that might bother some people. Well, you can't see my highlight, can you?
yeah, you can see it. Yeah,
Okay, you can't see it.
yeah. You took it off. You could see it when you had it highlighted. Yeah, it's just you're clicking. There you go.
Well,
Yeah, you can see it.
Highlighted on my end, but anyways, yeah, it says most players don't want to play this way. It's slow, sometimes boring. It's controlled. There isn't a lot of freedom. So, your thoughts on that, Tony?
So, a lot of things to unpack there. First off, two of the major things that people have criticized Fran for: point guard development and team defense. The first two things listed: point guard development and team defense.
Right.
You know, we tend to overreact one way when you fire a coach. Okay, let's just find what his deficiencies were, which every coach has some, and then go the other way. I think with this, it's that and then some. Like, there is so much more. I wanted to see, you were going to keep going. I wanted to see what they said about scheduling. I saw this tweet, but I didn't read all of it.
Yeah, let's continue.
Because scheduling is something that, I don't want to, I guess I'll let you say it, and then I'll say what I was going to say. So
No, real quick, I want to make sure to prioritize the super chats. Lemansky, thank you for this. 82% win percentage for Ben. This is 5th all-time in collegiate basketball. All right, let's go back to our comment here from Craig Doty, and we're reading this. This is from Craig Doty, who used to be the head coach at Emporia State and coached a lot against another power, Northwest Missouri State, who, of course, was coached for a long time by Ben McCollum, new Iowa men's basketball head coach. Craig Doty's now at Houston Christian. Ben McCollum, hired by Iowa. Craig Doty goes on to say scheduling, another reason buy-in and trust remains so high amongst his players, is because his teams win early in the season. Winning keeps everything in line. McCollum has not played a non-conference road game in almost 9 years. Sorry. I like that. That's interesting. His last non-conference road game was November 20th, 2016, when Northwest Missouri played at Metro State in Denver. Since then, his teams have played 63 non-conference games, all at home or neutral site. No one manipulates their schedule better than McCollum. He knows it gives his team a massive advantage to not go to another campus to play tough road games until the conference season. He also doesn't share his secrets. Finally, McCollum doesn't share his mastery. He will give cliche talking points about toughness, culture, recruiting the right kinds or right kids, etc. But he never shares how his players are the best conditioned and the least injured in all of college basketball. He doesn't share the angles of attack on offense and the fine details that take his teams to the next level. You won't find him at a coach's clinic showing his fellow coaches how he develops his defensive system. He doesn't share his proven point guard development system, how to grow shooters, and his systematic approach, the most simple yet complex offensive system in the country. McCollum is one of the best basketball minds in the history of college basketball across all levels. But you'll get what you see and nothing more. He keeps the most important 20% locked up within his programs like it's gold at Fort Knox, perhaps because it is. I think this is the statement when you hear another head coach in basketball make that statement. That's a huge statement to make. I mean, for a guy who's still relatively young in the grand scheme of college basketball head coaching, for another coach to say he's one of the best basketball minds in the history of college basketball across all levels, that's a nuts statement to make, Tony.
I've heard different iterations of that statement from a lot of people, like top 5, top 10 mind in the game, regardless of level.
Yeah,
from more than one person. That it doesn't matter whether you talk NBA, D1, any basketball level, combined all the minds, and he's top 5, top 10. And I've heard that from multiple people. The schedule. Go ahead. You can.
No, I say a lot to unpack there. Do you care to comment on any of it? I mean,
it's probably easiest to go, line by line would be the easiest thing, because if you just go all over the place. What was that? Coach Doty. Yeah, I got him right here, so I can pull that up on my. The first thing was what we said was defense. I think that was the first one he covered, right?
Yes.
There it is. Yeah, Coach Costa. Point guard development. Point guard development. That was the first one. Team defense.
Point guard. Yeah. Yep.
I think that's going to be where we see the biggest difference. Is he developed these national player of the years, and getting a kid to go from D2 to signing with the Rockets is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. I think that's where we're going to see one of the biggest things. And that's not only just on the offensive and defensive end, both ends of the court. Like if you have a true point guard who can play both sides of the ball and spearhead your efforts on both ends of the court as a leader, that's a tremendous head start on a lot of teams. So I mean, his point guard development is going to be something that I think is going to be a breath of fresh air compared to what we've had. Because when's the last time we've had a true point guard, an actual true point guard?
Well, I mean, some people would say Brock Harding is a true point guard, but he's not the level of guard defensively that a program like this needs, and especially in a system like what Ben McCollum's going to bring. I think everybody thought, I'm one of those individuals that thought when Fran McCaffrey got here 15 years ago that he was going to bring these athletic, do-it-all point guards from the East Coast over, and he really never did. I mean, like he brought some guys like Desante Bowen. He never worked out. Aaron Eulis, Chicago. Joe Toussaint, was good for a while, but then he leaves. I don't know where the divide there was. I really don't. Honestly, one of his best point guards was at the beginning of his tenure, Bryce Cartwright. Probably one of the more underrated guys. He was a true point guard.
You could argue Gasol.
But he was
more of a two guard. Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, he wasn't I think Bryce Cartwright was more of a natural point guard, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, because Clemens Sapp was more the point guard of that team.
Yeah, but Clemens, like, he was a defensive guy that could shoot, but he wasn't some great passer. I mean,
no.
I think Cartwright probably one of the 3 best passers, passers that played the point guard position, I guess would be the best way to describe that Fran had. And Brock Harding's a really good passer, but again, he's so physically limited. Mm-hmm. And that's why if I am Ben McCollum, I am taking a good hard look at that aspect of. I'm not saying to every Iowa player we want you back. Like,
I think he's
Could there be a situation where they retain Brock Harding? Yeah, but I don't think they're going to, because I'll tell you this, because I think he's probably going to get some NIL offers from other places, and I don't think I don't think Ben McCollum is well off spending money on Brock Harding. That's my opinion. Also, I think Ben McCollum, we just read what Craig Doty had to say about Ben McCollum. Based on everything I've heard, you pair that with what Craig Doty said and his resume, Ben McCollum's he's going to be very deliberate. He knows what he wants. So my guess is, Tony, there are going to be some guys.
He's going to have honest conversations with.
There's going to be some guys that he wants, and there's going to be some guys he don't want.
Yep.
With all due respect, this isn't a fit for you. And I respect, and that's what I think that's great, and I look forward to watching it.
Because that's one of the criticisms / things that's in Fran's favor is he never really, quote unquote, the adjective of Tom Creening guys, because Tom Crean was one of the first people to do it, where you get these guys off the roster that are dead weight and move on. And just say, hey, see you later. We don't need you anymore. And now it's becoming more and more common practice nowadays. But I think you might see a little more of that than Iowa fans are used to, which can be a good thing, to cut the dead weight.
All right, let's go to our phone line. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you guys what you thought of Ben McCollum's assistants that he's going to bring in. I haven't heard much about them, so I don't know who they're going to bring in for recruiting.
Well, I did see Tommy Birch of the Des Moines Register reported here about an hour ago or 2 hours ago, whatever it was, that Tyler Sash's brother is on the short list. Tony, you're familiar with the staff. You basically said earlier that based on your research, he had almost all of his Northwest Missouri State guys come with him. Am I correct in saying that, Tony?
Yes.
Sash is one of those guys. He's considered.
Actually, Sash, I take that back and I'll stat correct myself. He was the Indian Hills head coach the previous year.
So that's my only question there, and I mean, we're kind of speculating on this caller, but like my only question there is that too quick of a jump for someone like Sash to go from Indian Hills head coach 1 year at Drake? Like Ben McCollum had this ridiculous resume at Northwest Missouri State. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't think so. And this is talking from someone who lived in Southeast Iowa, and you've heard Jess Settles mention this. Indian Hills and SEC, that's high level basketball being played there, because these are the kids that did not have the grades to make D1. The talent is there at that JUCO level at SEC and Indian Hills. Now that's something that also excites me, because I think that is one thing Fran never did, was tap into SEC and Indian Hills enough. There's talent there that you can get, very, very high level talent. And
that's true.
It never was tapped into. Now having Sash, who was at Indian Hills, I think that is a tremendous addition, because something that could help you is if you don't have the NIL fund, some of these JUCO kids may not be demand the big payday, but they may not be getting it as much as other transfer kids. So you've got to be creative with your recruiting, and getting these JUCO kids may help the NIL deficiencies we may quote unquote have.
Can I just say real quick? This is an aside, but my guess is Matt Gatens, I don't know if they were friends, but my guess is Matt Gatens had some form of a relationship with Tyler Sash, because they played at the same time.
Yeah.
Do we realize that, folks? They played at the same time at Iowa. So I wonder if there's a connection to the family there. But besides that, I think Matt Gatens and Sash are probably your two of your first hires. Those are probably your. Well, I mean, I can't say that definitively on Matt Gatens, but I just think it makes sense to retain him. And then after that, I'm not familiar enough with that Drake staff, Tony.
So here's the other things too. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt if the caller wanted to say something, but I'm looking at Sash's bio. Prior to Indian Hills head coach, he spent 3 seasons as an assistant coach at North Dakota State. And then prior to that, he had stints as an assistant coach at University of Missouri, Kansas City. And he was also the head coach at DMAC in 19 and 20, where he led the DMAC Bears to a 29-4 regular season record. So, I mean, he's had varying success at different levels. I think the butting heads moment would come is with Gatens, as Gatens probably would want to be the top assistant. And I would bet Ben wants Sash to be the top assistant. That might be the butting heads point.
Yeah, I agree.
What is it? Is that just? I mean, why do we need to have why do we have to have some formal top assistant? Like, can't you have 2 guys that are they're assistant coaches?
You could, yeah.
They're assistant coaches.
I'm just wondering.
You can probably make that work somehow.
I'm just wondering who's he going to get to be a top recruiter. That's what I'm kind of concerned about.
Well,
I don't know who he's bringing over from.
I think based on what I've heard, Matt Gatens, I think Gatens is probably considered to be a pretty good recruiter.
Yeah. Now it also, we alluded to this earlier, the GM or the old director of basketball operations position. Depending on who he gets there, because I mean, Tyler Barnes is the lead recruiter, as you said, that's what you know him as for Iowa football. Who they get is in this GM / director of basketball operations position, could more be the lead recruiter, because now they have loosened up in basketball how many coaches you can have on the road and who they can be officially staff wise. So you may have a dynamite recruiter who's not doing much of the X's and O's stuff. We're used to have a X's and O's and recruiter guy like in the same person. Now you may have to you may have two different guys doing that. Now, people have thrown this name out, and I've thrown it out as possible head coach. Now we have a head coach, but BJ Armstrong was an agent. What about him as a GM? Come back to Iowa, be the GM of the Iowa basketball team.
What's the pay? I mean, what can they pay a GM? That'd be my next question, because I'm guessing BJ makes pretty good money wherever he's at. So,
yeah, I don't know.
that would be my question. Those are all good questions.
Well, who knows? Does the allure of bringing Iowa basketball back? He's probably made a lot of money as an agent. BJ is not young. This may be one of those things where it might not be a money thing. And I mean, it's always a money thing, obviously, but if it's something somewhat competitive that he can live comfortably with, and he's done well for himself in his past life as an agent, who's not to say he might not want to come? And agents have connections.
Anything else, caller?
No, that's it. That's all I want to know. Thanks.
Appreciate the call, sir. Yeah, those are good things. Good questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like he was hinting. I don't know who he's going to bring back. I don't know who he's going to bring with. I really don't. The only one I would say for sure is Sash, and I heard a rumor about the Waukee Northwest coach. Outside of that, I haven't heard anything else on who he's going to bring with. This is a big step up for a lot of those guys, because the rest of the staff was at, going D2 to Missouri Valley in 1 year is a big step up. Now going Valley to Big Ten basketball is a step up. I may be biased in saying that I think Sash is qualified for it, because I'm sorry, those Indian Hills and SEC, those are as close to Drake level talent too. Like,
so
those teams are loaded.
Is the last name in any way affecting your objectivity?
No.
Okay.
No, it's the Indian Hills thing. It's not even the Tyler Sash thing. It's the Indian Hills thing. I mean, growing up and going to those games and seeing that, that rivalry, holy cow. That if you're a hoops nut in Iowa and you've never been to an Indian Hills SEC game, take it in. Those two schools hate each other. Absolutely hate each other. I mean, we had Thunder Doug was the last SEC recruit I can remember. Doug Thomas went to SEC. And then the last legit Indian Hills recruit I can remember was Chauncey Leslie. I mean, that's how long it's been. Think how long you have to go back in your memory to get those two. Like,
well, I've watched Doug Thomas, so it's not that long ago. Because
I mean, it's at least 10 old. Years ago.
Oh, it was more.
Rob Griffin. I mean, it's got to be 10 years with Doug Thomas, right?
Fran was here 15. Doug Thomas was with Alford.
Yeah, so it was 10 plus years ago.
It was
Rob Griffin. Yeah,
it was.
Well, Rob, I was thinking Doug made more of a Ben.
It was 15. It was 15. It was 15 plus years ago.
Yeah,
when Doug Thomas was here.
Yeah.
All right, folks, the phone line's open, 515-635-1601. We're going to add Doug back here in just a second, but I want to get to a couple of comments here. Lance, I think we've addressed this. Any word on players coming with him? The only person that I can say I heard about on Saturday when the news officially broke with me was I expect Price Sanford to return. But there's no guarantees here. I mean, NIL is always a factor, but I think there's a good chance they get Price back. I've said before, I don't think they're getting Dix back. I don't think they're getting Freeman back. I don't think they're getting Harding back. And then everybody else, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Does Laji Dembele fit what McCollum wants? Does, any of the guys? I just don't know. I mean, Ben McCollum's the guy that, Traore. I mean, I would think Traore with his upside and his youth, he's got 2 years left.
The only thing that I worry about is his defense with Traore.
But boy, he can learn it. I mean,
he has the tools. Yeah.
If it's up here, that's the question. Yeah. Because I said there were several times this year where I said, I don't think he's well coached, but I don't often say that with Fran guys. Like, not now defensively, that's a different story, but some of the mistakes he'd make on the other end, I'm like, man, is he not being well coached? Because his upside's so high, his athleticism is off the charts, but he'd make really dumb mistakes that I wouldn't expect a second-year guy, even though first year in the program, second-year guy to make. So he's a guy athletically that would fit in to a lot of systems, but is, I don't know what his some of these guys are probably going to have some NIL demands, Tony. And if Iowa can't hit their NIL demands,
I'll be honest. I don't think any of them will have much outside of Sturts.
No,
I don't think. You're talking about the Iowa kids. Sorry,
I'm talking about Iowa guys. Like that's part of the reason why I believe it's very.
Yeah, I mean,
chance.
I've heard Brock is getting offers in the $500,000 range.
Bye.
So what happened?
Bye. I'm sorry. I mean, hey, go get your $500,000, kid.
Sorry. I thought you were talking to somebody. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If he's getting paid $500,000, see you later. So I didn't know you were. I thought you were doing something else. That went over my head. You're going. Go get. Because it sounds like he's got. He's down to like 5 or 6 schools. He just put out a final 5 or 6 list. Brock Harding did. And I think it was like
how long he's been mulling those over.
I don't know, but Washington was one of the schools. I know that much. I think it was Washington, Louisville.
I can't wait for Iowa to play him and shut him down.
Yeah, in Washington. Yeah,
I'm just saying, like,
no,
people think I've been unfair to Brock Harding, but my opinion on Brock Harding and
it's just a fit thing. It really is just a fit thing with what Ben wants to do. He doesn't fit. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he just doesn't fit.
And then also ZJ says, what's your opinion on who might transfer in? Iowa players currently in the portal that might come back. Koch would be at the top of my list. I would think McCollum would want him back. Yep. I don't know about Lodgy. Mulvey's not coming back, nor should he. Nor should he. I mean, with all due respect to Riley Mulvey, he's got 1 year left. No. And then Owen Freeman. I mean, I don't think they have the money.
Price. You didn't say Price, but Price is up.
I think Price will come back.
Yeah.
But after that, I just don't know. Koch and Price would be my 2 priorities. And then, we'll see what he thinks about Lodgy Dembele. But then they also got to figure out. I mean, and do they want Chris Taggio?
Yeah.
If Ben McCollum doesn't want Chris Taggio, he's probably going to say, you got to enter the portal, kid.
Yeah.
Because you ain't going to play here. I mean, that's the reality of it. Ben McCollum did not recruit Chris Taggio. I mean, I don't think he did.
All of the kids except one, the DK team was the only one that didn't decommit, but Briscoe and Josh Lewis. Someone I think said in the chat earlier about the Josh Lewis ship has sailed. He's not going to come back to Iowa. His main recruiter is Spurlock, and let's just say Spurlock's probably not going to be welcome back to Iowa. And I'm sure you can guess why after our show.
That's why when we celebrated the Josh Lewis thing in the first place a couple months ago, remember I was like, I don't really know. Like, it's great they got a 4-star recruit, but I don't think Fran's going to be here. And here we are a couple months later, and Fran ain't here, and neither is Josh Lewis. So,
but I would say this: we would have had a better chance to retain Josh Lewis if Gatens was the lead recruiter versus Spurlock. It's the Spurlock thing. Him and Spurlock have a great relationship. Him and Josh Lewis and Spurlock. So if Gatens was the one who had their relationship, there could have been a possibility. But because it was Spurlock that was the lead there, that's why I say Josh Lewis is not coming back.
Is there here's my question to you, Tony. Is there anybody that's part of, not counting Josh Lewis, Briscoe, Diakite, the kid from, is it
Miami?
What's the 26 kid's name? I always screw up.
Shabazz Nate. He used to be Assumption, and now he's at a prep school.
Shabazz. So are any of those guys, or Chris Taggio, Seydou Traore, if you can go look, Seydou is going to be difficult because he's a transfer, but any of those were they recruited by Ben McCollum during McCollum's first year at Drake? That's my question.
That part I don't know, but there is one connection with Ben McCollum for, and it's just hometown, but Jaden Kuhn, the kid from Storm Lake, and that is where Ben McCollum grew up. And I was under the understanding that I heard that Ben McCollum and Jaden Kuhn's mom went to school together in Storm Lake.
Where's Jaden Kuhn going?
Well, it was rumored, Creighton and stuff like that. But I mean, if McCollum has a connection, because I don't think he was that strongly considering Iowa. Now, if McCollum's here, he could be considered Iowa. I mean, he has Creighton offers, he has Nebraska offers. He's a high major talent. He could be one. I don't know. Is that where you're going, the prep school rank, or you just combine it? Because we were talking about Shabazz too.
I just am curious if McCollum anybody on his staff recruited any of the incoming recruits during the 1 year where McCollum and his staff were at Drake. Did any of those guys get recruited by Drake?
I don't think any of the kids that signed up, because I think Shabazz was pretty much a foregone conclusion to Iowa, and I don't think they recruited any of the other three.
Okay. And then Spencer says that the Medved guy is officially the head coach at Minnesota. Yes. So that just got announced. And boy, what a run for Colorado State. And they, lose at the buzzer last night to Maryland. But that's going to be an interesting one. There's some good coaching hires in this conference. I mean, some of the bigger names across the country.
He was one that I mentioned when we originally started was Nico Medved.
Yeah.
Because he was another former Drake guy. You have what? 3 former Drake guys now. DeVries, Medved, and McCollum, all in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. VM's BIGOT says, this is a Starbucks mug. I don't know if you can see this. Starbucks is not a sponsor of the show. Okay. You can see the little Starbucks logo there. So that's what the mug is. I'm a mug guy. I got so many coffee mugs. It's always been mugs, ties, and now that Ben McCollum's the head coach, maybe I should just go through every one of the ties that I own. It may take me a few years to go through all the ties on a live stream because I'm not going to be doing that many live streams.
I actually wore this one originally on Saturday night to work. I actually hope he goes with this one over the solid. I like this for Iowa.
Well, I've got a Hawkeye. I've literally got a
tie like that. Yeah,
I've got a Hawkeye tie with the Tiger Hawk at the bottom.
Yeah.
So now I'm not going to be. I don't wear it because I try not to be a homer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that's another thing too is as a media member, you have to be impartial.
Really?
Well, you don't have to.
I'm asking you think all the media
members.
members.
Well, I'm talking about when you're at a live sporting event. If that's what you're doing,
you should try to. You should make an effort to appear.
Yes, that's there. That's the better. You have more English acumen than I do with that. You can master that language better than I can. But yeah, that's more what I was going for.
Patrick wonders if Gaydens could be a candidate for the coaching job at Drake.
He used to be an assistant there.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, Brady, bring in Brady Ellingson.
Yeah.
Hey, where is Brady Ellingson now? Because remember, Brady Ellingson played briefly for Fran, and then he ended up being an assistant on the Drake staff. So where is Brady Ellingson nowadays, Tony? Do we have any idea?
No, but Google's going to tell me.
All right, let's go to our next guy. We got Doug, who was having problems with his internet earlier, but I think he's having better results now. You look clearer now, Doug. Welcome back.
I went to the phone. I guess the computer and stupid Mediacom, and yet they sponsor my court. Yeah, maybe they put less money in sponsorship and more money in my internet. I don't know. Who's the ESPN guy, Tony Wojnarowski, that took that GM job with St. Bonaventure? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah. And so did Steph Curry. Took the same job with Davidson. Steph Curry is the agent / this GM thing with Davidson, Wojciechowski's for Bonaventure. So I mean, this thing is not like it's more of a token or glorified position at some places too, where it's just a name.
Yeah, that's just when you said BJ for that role, that made some sense. 2 candidates for Drake, Jeff Warner and Dean Oliver, I would think would be candidates for Drake. I mean, they're not that much, but who knows? Drake, and Tony's the same age as me. When I was like in 7th, about 13 or 14th, Drake was the worst Division I basketball program in the country. Not like saying the worst Mill Valley team in the country, worst Division I basketball team in the country. They had 1 win and were ranked 330th by all metrics, like the worst. And Tom Davis went in there and made that team something. And now they have 3 coaches in the Big Ten. What Brian Harding has done there is amazing. And you just look at, well, we're going to play another Drake assistant tonight. And the other Drake assistant went to UNI to play for the football. I mean, the Drake head coach for football. Brian Harding might be the best AD in this state.
I'm sorry. Doug, we hope you're okay, buddy. All right. We hope you're okay. Please come back if you are. Go ahead, Tony.
I was just using my thing to verify. I'm trying to get logged into LinkedIn because that's how I'm seeing where Brady Ellingston's at now. But he used to be at Drake as the director of basketball operations, like you said. That was his title.
Okay, he was director of basketball operations.
Yeah, which is this new GM. It's what the GM role used to be, you know. I don't know. We can go back to that tweet. I have that tweet pulled up. Team defense was the next thing Coach Doty mentioned when we were breaking down the tweet. Yes, that's something that I watched, like when watching his games, is there's a lot more help. It never seemed like with Fran's teams, help defense was prioritized. Like, well,
I don't think
defense
help
in general.
defense was prioritized. I don't think ball screen defense was prioritized.
Yeah, there's a lot of not defense being prioritized. Another thing that Fran did, the third thing, was shot development. That was something that we've talked about in the past when they had oh my gosh, I can't even think of the guy's Spurrow on the staff. He was the shot doctor.
Kirk
and
Spurrow,
so was Gary Davis, or Gary Close, I'm sorry, was the shot doctor too.
You just call him Gary Davis?
I did, and I'm sorry, Gary Close.
Wow.
I did Tom Davis and Gary Close. I merged the two together.
And I think Matt Gatens took over that role.
Yeah.
So that's the question then. Where if Ben McCollum's known as are you implying that Ben McCollum is a shot doctor?
Well, that's what he said, shot developer. That was in that tweet. You know, that
you gotta wonder, is that McCollum or is that somebody on his staff? And if it's somebody on his staff, do they need Matt Gatens? So, I mean, there's so many questions. We go down a rabbit hole with this, but if that's Matt Gatens' role or was his role in the previous staff, yeah, I mean, there's lots of questions. But here's what they got to do. In addition to just Ben McCollum, they got to have somebody brought over who is a defensive-minded assistant coach. Like, and he will, right? I mean, I don't know how Ben McCollum has built his staffs at Northwest Missouri State and Drake, but Fran never had somebody who was defensive-minded. It sounds like Ben McCollum is a defensive-minded head coach, and so naturally he's going to have defensive-minded assistants. So, but then we read about him being a shot doctor, etc. Yeah, these are we're going to be learning a lot here in the coming months, I think, as we see who he recruits, who he retains, who he gets commitments from. And, I think the next question that we could address that we probably really can't answer is, how does this affect funding? Because I said it, when Fran got fired, I said, look, you can't just excuse Fran because, well, they don't have the support financially. Part of the problem is they don't have the support financially because of who the head coach is, like it or not, love Fran or not. He was part of the problem. He was not part of the solution. And all I had been urging him to do for the last 3 years is to get out there and try to be part of the solution. And I never saw Fran do that publicly. I just never saw it. And I don't think Ben seems like a very, you mentioned the term professional, but I think he's somebody who is likely going to appeal to some of the older people that have the money because of how he goes about his business, what he prides himself and his teams on. But again, this is all very fresh. I'm looking forward to this press conference tomorrow, and I'm already thinking of how I'm going to make this work on my schedule. But I'm going to make it work with my schedule. So
I will say your good friend Elliot tweeted out that he canceled his plane ticket back, and he's going to be driving back overnight just to make sure, because he had a plane ticket to come back, and he was not going to be back in time for the press conference. He's already tweeted out that he's canceled his plane ticket and is renting a car to drive back to make sure he's back in time for the press conference. Now that's dedication right there. But no, I will add on to what you were saying. The NIL stuff. Ben Johnson at Minnesota, they had no NIL organization or anything. He self-fundraised everything for them, and they got to $2 million. I can see Ben Johnson being similar, or Ben McCollum being similar to Ben Johnson. Those two seem very similar makeup-wise. I mean, Ben Johnson didn't have the greatest success at Minnesota, but I can see them being very similar, where they're going to go glad hand and kiss babies and go to the small towns in Iowa and all that stuff, and be out there as a quote-unquote politician, if you want to call it that, to get the money and drum up the support. And I can see him doing whatever it takes. And he's going to be working 24 hours a day probably to make this work. He just seems like a tireless worker who's never going to stop until the end, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, I do think that there's going to be, I was having this conversation with my best friend before I got on here. Is it the chicken or the egg with this NIL thing? Like, obviously more funding will come if there's winning, but in order to win, we have to have more funding.
Right.
Like, where does that balance come from? And
that's
then,
why I said you've got to be a promoter. You've got to be a fundraiser.
Yep.
You've got to be, as a head coach. That's no longer is just about the AD going to the big money people and raising money for.
No, and then revenue sharing is the next part too. How much do they?
It's no longer just about the iClub too.
Yeah. Yeah. Revenue sharing is the next part too. How much do they give? They're not committed. You know, everyone's throwing out these numbers that, so this is what's going to go to football. This is what's going to go here. This is going to go there. Like, is it a situation where you say, look, yeah, obviously football is going to get this big chunk. Then you have people are saying anywhere between 3 to 5 million left over for the other three major sports between wrestling, women's basketball, and men's basketball. Wrestling, from my understanding, is pretty much self-funded and doesn't need that much help at all, is the way I've understood it. Women's basketball is on a roll, and I bet you probably have it's funding itself as well. Do you, in the beginning, give everything that's not left over from football straight to men's basketball until it gets rolling, and then as it goes, do you adjust it? Like, how does this revenue sharing work? I don't think I don't know. Do you know, like, do you have to commit to something and this is what it is? Or do you say, hey, 1 year we're going to do this much to this, the next year we're going to do this much to this? Like, can you play around with the numbers? I mean,
I do know how some of it works, but I'm not prepared to talk about it just because I would need to. I mean, it's what I was told from a very good source on this, on the football side of this months ago, was very complex. I mean, this was pages long that
so it's not easy.
It's a whole new world. I mean, this is just totally, so NIL is a new world, but revenue sharing is a whole new world as well. All right, let's go to, let's go back to Doug, and then we have our caller on the phone.
Well, I just don't want to take any more of your guys' time. I wanted to say bye. I'm having so many issues today, but not an issue I have is the hire. I think it's Bo Ryan 2.0, not Todd Licklider 2.0. Again, thank you for everyone being patient with me trying to go from my computer to my phone. I know most of you don't want to hear what my thoughts are, but I'm looking forward to this. I think they're going to have a great team next year, actually. Well, maybe not great. I think they'll be, I'll say this, they'll be equal to this year's team at minimum.
Will they be a tournament one, Doug?
Well, I have to know the roster a little bit, but you know, I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, why not? I mean, we've seen what Michigan went from 8 wins to the Sweet 16. You know, we're not at 8 wins, and you know, again, that's Michigan with their NIL money. I just liked what I saw the last couple games. Again, sorry, I know there's other people in line, and I've now stepped in 3 times. But, you know, just I'm looking forward to this. And Ben McCollum is, I think, a great coach. And I'm just very happy. It was great to see Tony. I somewhat wouldn't like the black tie because it makes you look like a fairway worker. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. But I'm looking forward to the press conference tomorrow. Donate to the NIL, donate to the Swarm, donate to the membership, subscribe, like this show. This is a good day. And, you know, we can talk about the players that are leaving, but we'll have 12 new players coming in that we need to support both financially, on the court, and we need to increase the attendance. And there's a lot of things. This is just the first step, not the last step. The first step was getting the coach. You know, I look forward to Iowa basketball. I've said this before, and again, I'm rambling, but I will get off here. Iowa men's basketball can win. We deserve. We. There's no reason they can't go to the Sweet 16 or win titles. And I don't think we put too high of expectations on Fran. I like Fran, but it's time to move on. And I like all of you guys. And even if I say so some other times, Tony, you're always really nice to me. I always really appreciate you. You defend me on not just this in the chats here, but on some other message boards and other groups. So I always really appreciate that. I just want Iowa basketball to win. And sorry for that. I keep on rambling. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
You're
Doug.
all right though, Doug. Right? Oh, the chat was concerned because I want to make sure he was all right.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's
hey, how
fired
about
up.
this?
That's good. I like to see it.
Steve says they want Jack McCaffrey. Can they flip him? Could they flip Jack from Butler?
Well, I
Let's
wonder
flip Jack
if
McCaffrey.
Jack. I will say this. I wonder if Jack follows his dad.
So where's his dad going? Do
Could
you
be
have an
Penn.
idea of where Fran might end up? I know that the
Penn.
Penn thing, but
Yeah.
but that wouldn't that need that to be going, right? That
What do you
needs to
mean?
happen. It needs to happen. It hasn't been
Well,
announced.
No, but Penn's open. That's all. I mean,
I
Penn's,
know, but I'm saying Penn needs to, just like Iowa needed to get a
Yeah.
coach today. Penn
Well,
needs to get a coach.
but Penn probably knows where they're at in the pecking order. Let's be honest. Penn's
Well-
not going to get.
So, but why Fran's the guy? What's the delay? Is what I'm saying.
Oh no, I'm not saying Fran's the guy. I'm saying he's a candidate there. I'm not saying Fran's the guy.
Fran's not even the guy at Penn.
There's other options, yeah. And I think the hesitancy with Fran is, let's look at it. You're going to hire someone who's in the twilight of his career.
But this is Penn. This
Yeah.
is Penn, man.
But if you want to build a program, I mean, he's only going to be there for how many years do you think you're going to get out of Fran? He still has a lot left in the tank, he says,
I
but
think
how
he's
many
got
years are
at
you going
least
to get?
5 or 6 if he wants 5
Yeah.
or 6.
Yeah. I guess that's where I'm going with it is, for sure you're never going to get a more than 5 or 6 years out of him, it sounds like. You know what I mean? That's what I was going with. We're like, you hire a younger guy, maybe in his 40s or 50s, who you're going to get him for a lot longer. That's what I was going with.
All right, let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Yeah, it's Steve. I'm just calling because I wanted to get your thoughts on the defensive guard play that will improve it, apparently, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will or not, but hopefully it will. I just think we've gotten some poor defensive units in the last few years from Fran McCaffrey, so hopefully the guard play improves. Guard defense, I guess, is what I'm looking for. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. You know who I think would have been, I know some people aren't going to like this. You know who would have been a great person for the, and
I have a feeling I know who you're going to say, but go ahead.
I think someone who would have been a great player in this system with Ben McCollum would be Tony Perkins.
Yeah.
I just think he would have
That's-
fit. And it's ironic because they played Tony Perkins
Yep.
here in the tournament here a few days ago. But
Now, I want to give the caller an example. I forget which Drake game it was, but Bennett Sturts dove halfway across the court for a loose ball. When's the last time you've seen something like that on the defensive end for Iowa?
Exactly.
yeah,
So I mean, I'm just giving you that's my
but I do think
case to you is that I think it's going to improve. That's all you need to see is rewind and see that highlight of their star guard diving halfway across the court to get a loose ball that's underneath the basket.
I do think Fran brought in a lot of guys who put in a lot of effort. But the problem is you have to be coached and the defensive effort has to be preached. That's why I think Tony Perkins would have been a great option. Drew Thelwell would have been a great option. And frankly, you look at the current roster now without Thelwell, without Brock Harding, that's got to be the biggest question mark, right? Is point guard.
Yeah.
I don't. Who is the
Well, I mean, are you talking about next year at Iowa with
Yeah.
Ben? Well,
Yeah.
wasn't Sturts kind of their point?
He can't be the
guard.
point guard. I don't think.
I mean,
can
he was the primary ball handler.
He
He's
may have
more-
been.
yeah.
See, that's the one thing I don't know if that translates over. I don't know that you want Bennett Sturts running. The
You
point
know, you know whose game Bennett Sturts could be comparable to is Roy Devon,
guard.
like that.
Yeah,
Like that taller point.
I think.
but he's
Devin
not really a
Marble
point guard.
probably
Yeah.
is- Devin Marble's probably a better athlete, I should say,
Yes,
than Bennett
Yes.
Sturts.
but I think Sturts is a better shooter.
Yeah, probably. So no, that's a good point, caller. And I do think they're going to have to do work in the portal at point guard. And my guess is now, depending on what they do with Logi, depending on, they're not going to bring back. I don't think they're going to bring back either Owen or Riley. Point guard, the 1 and the 5 might be the two biggest needs. And because I also don't know if they're going to bring back Tajo. What?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have known nothing about Chris Tajo. I don't even know why he played this year. I said that week 1. I said, look, I don't know why Fran McCaffrey's playing the kid, because it doesn't appear that he's really in the cards as it relates to playing time. And so my only explanation was Chris Tajo didn't want a red shirt. So, I think point guard and 5 are probably the two positions of greatest need, and we'll see what they bring over from Drake. Now, their big guy, does he have eligibility left?
Hold on, I got that tab right here.
Hold on.
Which one are you talking about? The one that came from Wyoming. Manua.
Emmanuel. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sophomore.
So he's
one of them. Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this roster other than I watched a lot of Bennett Sturts over the last week.
So one thing I will say, Doug mentioned this, and we were talking about rebounding. Banks and Manuwa both rank in the top, and I'm using 31 because Banks is 31 and Manuwa is 19, in offensive rebounding percentage in the nation. And Banks is 125 in defense, and Manuwa's 58 in defense. The other two numbers were 31 and 19 for offensive rebounding percentage. So those two guys are rebounders. And that's one thing that Tajo was known as a recruit, was he was tagged by On3 as the best rebounding prospect in last year's class.
So my guess is, for the people wondering about the Drake roster retention to Iowa, I should say transfer to Iowa. If you're an Iowa fan, you certainly want Bennett Sturts.
Yep.
I would assume people would also say the same about Banks. You brought him up earlier because he's got. Does he have 1 year left?
Banks has 1.
Taven Banks has 1 year left, and then
the Manuwa kid is a sophomore.
Manuwa, and then is there anybody else?
Isaiah Howard is the other one I think people have mentioned, and he's a freshman.
Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about him. I know that they had one guy they had a couple guys. Mascari's a senior, I believe. Correct.
Mascari's a senior. Abreu's a senior. Nate Ferguson.
Abreu would have been the other that I would have probably.
Abreu's a senior.
He's a senior. Yep.
Yep.
So, yep. Anything else, caller?
No, I just like to see improved guard play from the Hawkeyes. That would help their chances to get in the tournament a little bit more, I think, and advance. Obviously, it hasn't been a thing in the past. So,
and that sounds like that's part of what this guy is known for. I mean, again, we probably heard earlier, read Craig Doty's comments, who was for a guy who scouted and coached against him for a long period of time. So that's a pretty strong endorsement for, and I mean, they're not in the same conference. Houston Christian and Drake were in the same conference, of course, but two guys who had both earned D1 head coaching roles. And that's a long endorsement too, Tony, from Doty that we read earlier about point guard play, team defense, and what was the other, scheduling and some of the other off-court stuff. But I do think we're going to see a significant difference. And I'm almost surprised. I mean, I think going back and looking at the Fran McCaffrey era, one of the biggest surprises is not the fact that they never played defense, because that's, frankly, Fran was never known as a guy who prioritized the defensive end. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that they went from Licklider to Fran. Tony, you brought that up earlier. Sometimes you kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other. I don't think Ben McCollum is quite that, but he does fill the gaps where Fran was exposed throughout his time at Iowa. But I do wonder with Fran to McCollum, like, why wasn't Fran able to get consistently better point guard play? Will we ever know? I mean, will we ever know?
I almost wonder if some of it was Fran was known as a point guard, and he thought he could coach up point guards, and he doesn't.
That's a foolish thing. He had to use.
I know. I'm just throwing that out as an example. I'm not saying that that's what it was. I'm just saying I wonder if that's what it was.
Well, he was also close on a few guys. I mean, the one guy that comes to mind is Tyler Ulis. That had they been able to get Tyler Ulis, he would have been the guy for 4 years. I mean, and he ends up being an NBA guy. So I've never understood why they weren't able to do better things at point guard. So I do think they'll get better guard play. And I agree with you, caller. Guard play and defense. Those are the two things that traditionally win championships. And those were two things that oftentimes were lacking. Not that Iowa didn't have some good guards, but true facilitators, quarterbacks, whatever you want to call them. And I don't know that can be Sturtz next year. I think they need to get some. I think Sturtz is, he ran the show at Drake in year one, but I think ideally you want someone else alongside him for him to be able to play off ball, be more of a Josh Dix type of guy. Now, if they were to be able to get Josh Dix back, can you imagine having Dix and Sturtz alongside one another? Maybe Sturtz plays the 3. How big is Sturtz, Tony? How tall is Bennett Sturtz?
Bennett Sturtz is 6'4", 180.
Yeah, that's a pretty small. That'd be
So
a pretty small.
He'd be a 2 guard. Dix was 6'6" something. I don't know what
No,
his weight was.
he's not 6'6". I got into this the other day with somebody. I don't care what the website says. I don't care what Hawkeye Sport. I called him 6'2". Okay, maybe he's not 6'2". Maybe he's 6'3", but he is not 6'5" or 6'6". I'm just saying that right now. But anyways, he plays bigger than he is. Anything else, caller?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the phone call. All right, let's go to. We've got another phone. Let's get another caller on hold here. But I do want to thank Vincent, because Vincent did throw in a donation for the show. Thank you, Vincent. He says, love the hire. Hope we get some portal guys back. So thank you, Vincent. If folks are interested in knowing how you can support the show, one way is by donating. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Links are in the description below this video here on YouTube. Again, thank you in advance for those. All right, let's go to our next caller. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
It's Kyle from Waterloo.
Hey, Kyle.
Hi. Couple of things. For Ben McCollum, congratulations to him and the university. Just a concern, though, and a couple other tidbits. Bennett Sturtz's playing time was like almost 40 minutes per game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that he will substitute a little bit more when he gets into Big Ten play, because that's going to be an injury some kind of way.
Well, that was one thing that was. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but that was one thing that his endorser, I guess, Craig Doty, who's the head coach at Houston Christian, who used to be the head coach at Emporia State, opposite of Northwest Missouri State. One thing he brought up is how Ben has long had an innate ability to play guys for 35, 40 minutes a game, but retain health. Now, that's different. The one thing about what Kyle brings up, Tony, is this is the Big Ten. So physicality is different, a lot different. Big Ten from Missouri Valley. So, but I also think there's something to be said for some of the guys that Iowa's brought in from the Missouri Valley who have acclimated fairly well right away. I'm talking guys like Ben Krikke, talking guys like Bakari Evelyn, and I'm talking guys like Evan Bronze. So I would say that in a sense, because I do think there's a physicality curve, but Ben McCollum has had an ability. He's known for that ability to be able to play guys more minutes than most, because of the pace of play is not as high tempo, and everything is very controlled and deliberate with what they do. I think the best way to describe it is not a lot of wasted energy on the offensive end. Is that fair, Tony? Maybe people don't like hearing that because that sounds like we're going to have boring basketball. But
everything that I've read and heard is, I don't know if the caller is going to be happy with this answer, but it sounds like he has his guys and he rides them. Like he doesn't. I think I forgot what the exact quote was, but he really doesn't care about depth. He cares about having talented guys that fits his system, and he'll just play quote unquote depth if he needs it, but he doesn't care that much about depth at all. He just wants his guys that fit his system, and that's who he's going to ride with. And you saw that this year with Bennett Sturtz. I mean, look how many minutes, we were talking about towards the end of the year, back towards this year's team with Sanford and Dix, like how many minutes they were out on the court and never got a breather. I mean, Dix played a lot of minutes. Not nearly as many as Sturtz, because Sturtz ranks number 1 in the nation in minutes played. It's not even close. 98.8% of minutes played for Drake. But it sounds like he has those types of guys that he just stick. And Mitch Mascaris too. There you go. Drake has number 1 and 2 in the entire nation in percent of minutes played. So that's just the type of guy he is. It sounds like that's the type of guy he is. Reading Coach Doty's too. He has his guys. They're conditioned, however they're conditioned, whatever program he uses, and that's who he's going to stick with. Now, hopefully that works in the Big Ten. I do understand your concern that this is way different going from Northwest Missouri State and Drake to the Big Ten. The physical grind is way different. Let's see if it works. Hopefully it does. I mean, the guy, all he's done is win. Let's hopefully it translates to this level.
Yeah, and then the other points, if they didn't get Ben McCollum, I was thinking of other candidates like, let's see, who did I mention a couple weeks ago? I think I mentioned, there was a new guy I was thinking about, I saw Furman's head coach, and I can't think of his name.
Bob Ritchie.
Yeah. Him. I was thinking, wow, he could be a good fit. But
I thought Richie McKay was at Liberty.
Or Richie McKay. I don't know.
He was at Liberty. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, Richie McKay was another one, but I kind of fell off from him because, like, I don't know.
But we don't got to worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just like, man, if we don't get Ben McCollum, I don't know where we could go.
It was
so.
Yeah, Tony, you texted me yesterday and said you were getting nervous, and I just said to you, why?
Well, it just I'm a very impatient person, Corey. I'm sorry, I'm not. I mean, you saw me, Corey, where I'm so impatient. How far was it from my seat in Sioux Falls to the bar? That's the type of person. Yeah. I'm just an impatient person. That's why I made that message. I thought it'd be closer to a done deal than it was, but it sounds like there were some I's dotted, T's crossed that needed.
Hey, how about Fran McCaffrey going to Drake? Steve brings that up in the chat. Anybody want that? Caller, how would you feel about Fran McCaffrey getting hired at Drake?
That would be a good fit.
Hey, it's an interesting idea, actually, Tony. It's an interesting idea. I don't think Fran probably wants to stay in the state, but
yeah, I think he's an East Coast guy. We've said that. I think he's an East Coast.
And I think if he's going to retire, go retire on the East Coast. So, Kyle, anything else?
Yeah. The other things was back to the if they didn't get Ben McCollum, there was some other coaches I had mentioned. I think Brian Wardle and Sean Miller, which he got. Didn't he get accepted at Texas? I believe.
Yeah, he just got hired at Texas. Which means, by the way, that the Xavier job is open, right? I don't think there's anything on that.
Correct.
Yet.
No. So Xavier is open,
and that's a good job.
That's a good job.
And the last point, and kind of a posed question to you guys. Let's go back to 1999.
Okay.
When Tom Davis was, I guess, what you call it, forced to resign in a sense.
Yep.
And Bob Mosby was the athletic director then, right?
Right.
So let's say if we had Dana Altman to replace him right after that, how would we have been as a program? That was my question to you guys.
Was Dana Altman on the market at the time?
Yes.
Was he a candidate? I mean,
Yes.
I don't know anything about. He was a candidate by Iowa.
Yes.
And so they picked Alford over him.
I don't know if that was the Alford or the Licklider hire, but Altman was.
No, that would have been the Alford hire.
Well, I thought Altman was a candidate twice.
They passed over him twice?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's correct. Passed over him twice.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But there's some other ones that they passed over twice too that it looks better in retrospect.
I mean, Iowa football passed over Bob Stoops, but nobody talks about that because most people think that Kirk was a great hire in '99. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of like the whole conversation between what would Iowa football, how would the offense have looked different with Zach Wilson as opposed to Spencer Petras, because they picked Petras over Wilson. But and Dana Altman, they narrowly lost. They almost went to another Sweet 16, and I didn't even think their team was very good this year. They were very up and down the regular season, but Yeah, how long has he been at Oregon now, Tony?
Oh gosh, I can tell you that here in a second.
He's been at Oregon for 15. Hasn't he been at Oregon almost as long as Fran's been at Iowa?
Probably.
Or Fran was at Iowa, I should say.
Oh my gosh, what am I thinking here? Yeah, give me a second. I can get that information for you.
Oh, it's not that important.
I'm just saying, it's a few clicks the mouse away. There we go. Dana Altman has been at Oregon since 2011.
Yep. So basically the same length as Fran's tenure. So yeah, he probably didn't have the. I mean, again, I wasn't even thinking about basketball back in '99, but he probably didn't have the resume. Alford was not. Alford was. How would you describe the Alford hire, Tony?
Here's what I'll say: wasn't he hired at the same time as Ferentz? And I want to say that Alford had way more fanfare. Alford was the hot name. He was the hot name. It was Southwest Missouri State or Southeast, whatever Missouri State he was at. They just made the Sweet 16. He was on the Indiana National Championship team. He had the connections to Bob Knight back then. You know what I mean? Like, he was the name. He was the name hire, and Ferentz was viewed as the boring hire. Well, let's see which one worked out.
Yeah, that's all I have. Go Hawks. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the phone call.
One thing I did want to say is I'm seeing reports out there that it doesn't sound like Price is going to be back.
Who's reporting that?
Chad.
That's out there. Like, he's reporting that he is not coming back. That's changed here in the last 48 hours. I've not reached out in the last 48 hours, but yeah, I can tell you about 48 hours ago, I was told that there was a good chance with Ben McCollum returning that Price. Now, I did not report that to our premium members. I did report that McCollum was being hired. So it was not like some certain thing, but that surprises me that
our first
could that also be McCollum. Could that also be McCollum?
Could be.
Could that be Ben McCollum saying he's not part of our plans? I mean, that's to me, that's if that's the case, if McCollum tells Price no, and we don't know that's the case, we're just speculating, but that's a big thing to do. And a couple hours into your coaching tenure, tell one of your underclassmen, no, we don't. 6'8" underclassman who's a really good 3-point shooter. No, I mean, we agree he's got some problems defensively, but if that's surprising. So is this on Twitter that
it's just message board talk and stuff like that Chad reported.
Okay.
I will say though, on Twitter, I have seen the first confirmed interest as of 8 minutes ago of Iowa contacting a transfer portal target. Valpo transfer forward Cooper Schweiger has received interest from the following schools since entering the portal, and Iowa is listed.
Bring on Duke, man. Bring on Duke.
Bring on Duke.
Insert Iowa into the Sweet 16 right now.
Yeah. I don't know. No, Cooper Schweiger.
Schweiger.
I don't know. He's from Valparaiso. But this is the first person I've seen that is reported as a prospect in the portal that Iowa's contacted that's not an Iowa or Drake player. That's all I was saying is this guy is being reported as Iowa contacted him. He's in the portal, and it was 8 minutes ago. That's the kid.
So here's for people who are curious who we're talking about. Reported interest from Iowa, Ben McCollum already to this young man from Valparaiso, who's another
Kansas.
He coached against him. He was all NBC all freshman team.
I would be interested to see if Ben recruited that kid because Kansas City was the primary area he recruited when he was at Northwest.
He's from Kansas City?
Yeah, he's from Overland Park.
Okay.
So, I mean, I wonder if there's a relationship there.
Yeah, and he's, as you can see here, 6'9", 210. So I don't know that he's a true 5, but he's certainly a 4 at the very minimum without having watched much of his film. You see his numbers here this past year, 16 and 8, along with 2 blocks a game. Appears that he also can shoot threes. He went from 36% his freshman year to 30% this year. So his percentage did go down there, but very efficient from the field overall, and also made 85% of his foul shots and got there 4 times a game. Those are impressive numbers.
Here's another thing too. I just did the Ken Palm thing. He was 189 and he played 82% of his team minutes. If we want to follow along with that narrative of Iron Men that that McCollum's going after. Great free throw shooter at 85%.
So are we implying that Price Sanford was not an Iron Man?
I don't know. I'm just,
that
was just something I looked and I was like, that number sticked out, that this kid ranked fairly highly in the nation in minutes played per game. And if that's something that sounds like Ben's going with is his ride or die guys, this guy could be that. And the guy's only a sophomore. He's got 2 more years left. 6'10", 230.
Yeah. Run through the list real quick for people that aren't on Twitter. Tony, can you run through the list of other schools who are in contact with him? Because based on these numbers, my guess is that there were a lot of blue bloods that were in touch with him.
Michigan, Kansas. I could go on. Virginia. I mean, there's a whole bunch of Baylor, Wake Forest, Clemson, or LSU, Nebraska.
What will you say? Let's just play in fantasy world for a second. What will you say if Cooper Schwieger commits to Iowa this week? What will you say if Ben McCollum just lands this kid? Will you do cartwheels in the parking lot?
I mean, if that's who Ben wants, then yeah, I'll be happy.
Well, obviously,
if he's already contacted him, and the kid's reporting contact from Iowa, and it has to be from Ben,
right?
Who else would do the contacting? We're this early in the portal. Yeah,
that's why I tweeted last night that this thing had already been in the works since Saturday. So,
oh yeah.
You know that he was waiting for the portal to officially open, just like all these other coaches were. Although a lot of coaches just contact willy nilly, regardless. But,
yeah, but I mean that's the first thing. One of the first names I've seen mentioned is this kid being listed. Joe Tipton put it out. Now it's 13 minutes ago, but I mean that's about as current as you can get. And this kid, I mean, he's got Villanova on there, Kansas. I mean, he's got a whole bunch of logos. I mean, obviously some of these contacts, you never know really what it is. You never really know how is the contact. Oh, hi, I'm a representative from Notre Dame. And then, okay, the kid says he got contacted. How deep is the contact?
Yeah, here's what Tony's talking about, folks. For people who are
curious. Yeah, look at that picture and all the logo. I was trying to. Hit the show more. Hit that show more. You see that full list.
Yeah. So here's the kid from Valpo, and he's wanted by just about everybody. Blue Bloods, including Notre Dame, Kansas, Virginia, Villanova, Michigan. And so much more. Hey, Butler's on there too. Yeah. So, anyways, but it's good to know that Iowa's working in the portal. Already at work. It's a hard job, man. This is a difficult job nowadays, man.
What was it that Kasheen even talked about that? I remember asking her about that. She's like, the portal is just nuts.
Yeah.
You would just, some of us have no idea how crazy this stuff is. And the amount of back channeling that goes on of conversations from, game of telephone, however you want to say it, where it's not the person talking, it's the person's person talking. And that person's talking to a person's person at the school. And then, everything else happens. It just, it needs to be reined in. It really does.
We've been saying that for a while, but,
someone mentioned this too. Look at the teams that advanced. And I don't know if it was just because this tournament and this year was so top heavy in college basketball, but now that we've kind of settled into the portal, we really didn't see that many Cinderellas and upsets this year. Now, is that a function of the transfer portal and NIL? Is that a function of the top was really that much better than the bottom this year? I don't know, but just something interesting to keep track. Are we going to see less and less of what makes March fun, quote unquote, on that first day or two, seeing a Cinderella form? I
Folks,
agree. I agree with that.
The phone line is open for anybody that wants to call in here. We got a few minutes left in our show as we continue to talk about the news on this Monday morning that officially broke. Again, I had shared it with our premium members over on YouTube. And Tony, you are a testament to that because you are a premium member. So thank you. But over on the premium board on YouTube, that Ben McCollum is Iowa basketball's new head coach. Congratulations to him and to Iowa Beth Getz for making that happen. Nate wants to know if I'm going to watch Pro Day. I don't even know when Pro Day is. When is Pro Day? You know, NFL Pro Day.
Did they already have Pro Day for NFL?
Maybe.
Oh, Pro Day for Iowa, like Iowa's Pro Day. I'm guessing is what you're saying. All the kids.
Okay, sure.
That would be my guess. I have no idea.
I've never been a pro day. I've never really been a draft guy. Well, I'll watch the draft, but I'm not like a combine guy. I don't sit around watching the NFL combine. I will be.
I don't even really watch Summer League too.
Like I don't really watch Summer. I will be intrigued to follow the NFL draft just because of some of the poor combine numbers that several of the Iowa athletes got here in the last month. So a couple things in the chat that I want to get to. Commander Cody is here. He says he's currently selling beer in Ben's hometown. So that hometown is probably celebrating right now as well. So thank you for being here, Cody. And then Vincent says, who do we think comes back out of the portal? Again, I had indication Saturday that Price was a likely return if McCollum was hired, but now there's some conflicting reports there. So we'll see. Certainly nobody is a guarantee at this point, and it all depends too upon what can Iowa spend and who does Ben McCollum prioritize, because he's not a guy who's just going to welcome everybody back. I get the feeling that hurt feelings are not his concern.
He does not. He does not seem like that type of person. No.
Yeah, but I also think he's going to go about it in a respectful way. But I don't think he's going to. Well, I don't think he's going to be prioritizing. Okay, who do I want to avoid hurting their feelings? That's not how it works. So, anyways. Scott brings up Steve Alford, how he would have been successful at Iowa if he wasn't so arrogant. He's still coaching.
Yes, he is. And I actually disagree, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, he had let's just say this. He had all the talent and resources in the world at UCLA. How do you do at UCLA?
He did have a lot of resources at UCLA. Yep. Tony, did you want to respond to that last? There was something.
I agree with that. I honestly, this is that the one you're talking about? This Brad Till comment?
Well, yeah, Brad Till brings up the Pierce.
I have long said I think that was a major turning point in Iowa basketball that for some people have not turned back since that happened.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. I remember that as a little kid. I mean, I was a young kid when all that went down. Was that like 2005?
Yep, I was.
No, it was not. It was not 5. It was 7. Would have been like 7, right?
Yeah.
7 or 8, somewhere in there. All right. Let's go to we got James here in the chat who says, does the pace scare you?
Really? I think we kind of addressed that though, where McCollum's gonna fit his pace to his roster. He's not commit. He's not this is what I'm gonna do come hell or high water. He's going to make it work to what he has. So that'll be refreshing to see.
Scott Reister of KCCI. I want to share this real quick because this just broke a few minutes ago. This is let's get a better layout here. Okay, this is from Scott Reister of KCCI just moments ago. He says, spoke with AD. I guess it was a couple hours ago. Yeah, Drake AD Brian Harden, who told me the timeline and how it happened. He had sat down with Ben McCollum early Sunday afternoon. Harden offered him a substantial raise, higher than any Drake coach has ever been paid. There was also a substantial increase to NIL funding for the players and all aspects of the program. McCollum called Harden, told him they were still leaning towards accepting Iowa's offer. Harden went to bed suspecting McCollum was gone, but hoping for the best. This morning at 8, McCollum called Harden to tell him he was indeed taking the Iowa job. Harden said, appreciative of the 31 wins and the feelings that we're stoked and Drake fans, but very disappointed we only got him one season. I do wish Ben and his family the best in Iowa City. Signed a 5-year contract last year, but we all know how this works. Harden will meet with the media today. He's made 3 amazing hires in a row and is already looking for the next. Difficult position for Drake. I mean, I do feel for them because, man, they have done well with their head
Yeah.
coaches, haven't they?
Whew, yeah. When's the last time they've missed on a coach?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and traditionally, Drake always played second fiddle to Ben Jacobson up at UNI. I mean, growing up, at least that's how it was. Not that they didn't have good teams and mixed in there, but Steve Peterson wants Brian Ferentz to coach the offense. Go ahead, Tony.
I want to touch on the scheduling thing because
Sure.
a lot of people have said, okay, now is this going to bring back the Drake and UNI games because Ben was at, Drake. I don't think it does after reading that. I think fans are not going to be happy with the scheduling if that quote does hold true, where he doesn't go away from home. He sticks to home games. And this year, I think you're going to see more of the schedule Fran put together this year, where you have the neutral games, where it's not a true road game or a true away game, where they played in Kansas City and Sioux Falls and in Moline. I think you're going to see a lot more of those. And you're going to hopefully see them get in a holiday tournament, which they haven't been in at least a year. And you're going to see I always refer to them as, and I don't know if you remember these names, this is going to bring back some memories for the older viewers, Athletes in Action and Marathon Oil. I don't know if you remember Iowa playing those chips, the paid older guys who used to be college players. I think you're going to see more games like that if that statement is true, that's how he's scheduled. And I mean, it seems like it is. I don't know if that can be fact checked, that he didn't go away from home for how long.
Well, Lynn is in the chat reminding everybody, please hit that like button, folks. We have almost 500 people here, and we've been hovering around that number all morning as we hit the noon hour. Please hit that like button, folks. It just takes 2 seconds. No obligation on your part, past just a click of the button or a click of your screen. Please hit the like and be sure you're subscribed here. Make us your primary Hawkeye source for live post-game coverage and these types of chats when breaking news happens and things like this. And we're going to have, I'm sure, more live shows with men's basketball because there's going to be roster news. There will be assistant coach news, portal news, all of that. So stay tuned for that. But thank you, Lynn, for reminding everybody to hit the like button. Same thing, Amanda. Thank you for reminding everybody to hit the like button if you're appreciating the show. What does this comment mean from Champy, who says, Gatos Locos Forever Homes, Bear Down, Arizona? What does that mean?
Well, Bear Down, Arizona is Arizona Wildcats. So he must just be finding this show, and I don't know how it got his YouTube algorithm. But,
sure. Can I say something real weird? Real weird. I almost took a picture of this and posted it on Twitter. There are Arizona Wildcat billboards all over Iowa, all over Ames right now. Like in 3 different places, they've got Arizona Wildcat for the university, but also half of it is for their basketball team. Why?
Well, Corey, how long have they been in the Big 12?
What does that have to do with why would you? Why?
I mean, think about this. Arizona and Iowa kind of have a connection. It's not Lute Olson. That's a popular destination for people to retire to.
Sure.
If you have great, I'm trying to make connections here. I mean, it's probably reaching and grasping at straws. But let's say you're a kid in Ames or whatever in Central Iowa, and you see that billboard, and maybe you're being recruited by Arizona, and forget, oh yeah, Arizona's the Big 12 now. Maybe I'm close to my grandparents. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
Joe Tipton reporting that North Dakota transfer guard Traveson Eaglestaff has been contacted by Iowa. So here's another kid with a bunch of blue blood offers already, including Michigan, Kentucky, LSU, Kansas, St. John's, Alabama, Gonzaga. Yeah, but he's got more offers. He's got some
good
better blue blood offers than the other kid.
This kid's good. He's the one who put up 48 or 50 in the Summit League tournament. He's good. He's legit.
So, yeah, for people that are curious on him, I showed the other young man's whose name already escapes me. His
Cooper
staff,
Schweiger or whatever.
Schweiger, yeah. So here's Eaglestaff. Here's a young man from Bismarck who is wow, he stayed in state, and that's amazing. It just shows that there is talent up there in the Dakotas.
He is my understanding, and this is from what I heard from someone, he is he's native, and they like to stay home. Like expect him to stay in the Midwest, is what I heard.
Well, that's a help for Iowa's chances, I guess. to some extent, but a bit. Yeah, again, you just got to wonder. Iowa's already making contact. These are at least 2 guys now who are major portal people early. Major.
Well, I wonder how much he went to North Dakota and Sash coached at North Dakota State. So there could be some connection there too.
So this young man, this past season, averaging, how about his first 3 years at North Dakota? 8.4 points, 14.4 points, and then 18.9. So obviously his scoring has increased. He went from being a 48% free throw shooter year 1 to being an 80% free throw shooter these last 2 years. And he can shoot threes. Shot 36% this previous year. Shot 38 his first 2 seasons at North Dakota. And the same type of, he's 6'6", so he's long, but he's probably more of a 2 or a 3 is my guess.
Hate to beat this drum, but we always, and human minds go to this. 82.2% of minutes, ranked 192nd in the nation. Another Iron Man. I'm just, when you find something and you keep finding confirmation bias, you roll with it.
Okay.
That's what I do, at least.
Yeah. All right.
He's another Iron Man. Hopefully that's what he's looking at. I don't know. He's a talented kid. I'm not saying the kid's not talented. I've seen him play. He's good.
All right. A couple more things here in the chat. And again, if anybody, last call on the phone line, 515-635-1601, or you can join us by StreamYard. Jesse says, I'm excited for McCollum. Hopefully fans give him a couple of years to get players into the program, develop some success. He has a lot of roster spots to fill. Would agree with that. Dustin wants to know if Richard Pitino would have been on the short list had McCollum not signed. I don't want anybody with the last name Pitino in the Iowa program, with all due respect. And look, they gave Michigan State a heck of a fight in the second round yesterday. And he's doing a good job in New Mexico, but he also didn't really take Minnesota to the next level.
But he did very well at New Mexico. I'll say.
Yeah, and Minnesota has not had great support from the fan base and the people that have the money. So similar to Iowa, I guess, in that regard. But I just wouldn't have wanted that last name.
So that
been a real likable guy too. He fits more into the Alford realm of personality.
Yes. That Eagle Staff kid, North Dakota played Alabama. I don't know if you remember that. Alabama went up to play North Dakota.
Yes.
Eagle Staff put up 40 on Alabama.
Ooh. Well, Alabama doesn't play defense.
No, but they still put up 40. He put up 40.
Real quick, they don't play defense.
Yeah.
Alabama, they don't play defense.
I know.
So,
but no, he put up 40. You still got to make the shots.
EA Monterey says you need an A&F hat, and you're awesome, and Mercy is completely gone. What does that mean?
Someone was talking in the chat about something with someone being born at Mercy or something like that. I don't know.
What do you mean Mercy's gone? Mercy One isn't Mercy One still in Des Moines? You live in Des Moines now, Tony?
Yeah,
right?
I go to Mercy One clinic. That's where my doctor's with. I don't know. Maybe it's Mercy in another city. The Mercy could be in another city. Because I know they were talking about stuff like the Mercy. Have any of the Mercy hospitals closed?
I'm not aware. I don't know. We don't have Mercy up here, but VMS BIGOT.
Mercy in Iowa City.
Okay, Mercy in Iowa City. Thanks to Corey, I get a bunch of West Virginia videos. Why is that? I'm assuming because I guested on a West Virginia show with
I'm getting a lot of their stuff in my feed as well. I've never gotten a video on my feed until today of them, and I think a lot of that is the crossover with the DeVries stuff. Well, and McCollum too. They wanted McCollum. I'll tell you that they made a strong push to get him. And
you got to wonder now where they. This is not
the name I've heard for West Virginia is Jared Calhoun, the Utah State coach.
Yeah, and I also wonder if the Bradley guy is a candidate potentially.
Sure. Yeah,
potentially. Mark says you can't have a roster full of the same type of guys. I would agree with that. Totally agree with that. And again, he's already attacking the portal, but my guess is McCollum already has a good idea of who he's able to bring in from Drake, because I'm sure some of those guys are going to be like, yes, if you have a spot for me, yes.
Yeah.
Like maybe not Sturts, but the other guys, yes, absolutely. All right, let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling Hawkeye Hangout here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey guys, it's Dom. How's it
Hey,
going?
Dom. Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'd say this is probably the best day we've had. Probably bigger than any win that I can remember since maybe when they won the Big Ten tournament. That's kind of what it feels like.
No.
But
I mean, the win of the Big Ten tournament was great, but this is a much bigger deal. We don't know what he's going to do here. We can just guess and predict, but this is a future thing. The Big Ten tournament, like you can celebrate it, but then it's on to the NCAAs. And what did they do in the NCAAs? They lost like 3 days later, 4 days later. So, Tony, when they lost to Richmond, was it like almost they pulled your heart out and threw it against the ground? Is that what happened when they lost to Richmond that year? Remember, we had Gatons on for our post-game show that day.
I went to a few watering holes after that. We'll just say. I was waiting for Dom when Dom started that, and I had some puzzled looks on my faces, and I was like, "Please tell me he's going to say at least the Big Ten championship." Like, I will say this is the best since at least that. Like, and it's probably my
that
I was hoping you were going to say at least the Big Ten championship game. So
for sure, yeah, because I'd be lying if I didn't say like I've struggled seeing the top. Like I've struggled to see where we can go with Fran since the Richmond debacle, and I think at this point, this was the right move to make. The program was getting stale. Like things needed to change regardless. Kind of like what you said earlier, Corey. Here's the thing: a buddy of mine were talking, and I was warming up to the idea of staying with Fran, seeing all the recruits that he was getting. But as soon as I said that, they lost 10 straight. So it was like,
did they lose 10 straight?
it was very close to that. If it wasn't 10, it was a lot.
I guess I didn't realize it was that bad. I honestly didn't realize it was that bad.
Indiana. they beat Indiana, and then someone in the chat might find it. They lost like 10 straight after the Indiana game.
It wasn't 10 straight. It was a lot. So what it was they beat Indiana. Then they lost the 3 in a row, which was USC, UCLA, Minnesota. Then they beat Penn State at home. Then they lost 3 in a row. Then they beat Rutgers. Then they lost 2, beat Washington, lost 3.
Okay,
so I mean, there was some wins sprinkled in, but beating teams with a pulse, quote unquote, yes.
So it felt like we were avoiding the loss in the 2 wins. But
yeah, I mean the Penn State. Well, the Rutgers game not as much, but the Penn State game for sure.
Yeah, this is a great day. This is the best news we've had in a long time. I think this is the right hire. He was my number 1 over DeVries. I thought DeVries was a pipe dream personally. I thought it was too expensive. I thought you saw the numbers. Like if we were at the bottom of the Big Ten in NIL funds, there was no way we were going to buy out Fran and make a giant offer to lure DeVries out of West Virginia. I didn't see that as the right fit. And McCollum, he just checks every box that Iowa needs to check off. And I'm glad Texas decided to wait last minute to fire their coach, because part of me was a little worried that they'd jump into the mix, but luckily that did not happen.
Did either of you see what DeVries' buyout was at West Virginia? West Virginia.
No.
$6 million.
I did not.
$6 million. $6 million. So we were going to be on the hook for $10 million before we even got to coach's salaries and NIL if we'd went after DeVries. 4 for Fran and 6 for Darren. I mean, it just like the more and more I looked into the DeVries thing, that's why I warmed more and more up to McCollum and less from DeVries. Like financially, it was never going to work. It was just never going to work.
Yep, that's where I was too. But I don't really have much to say. It's just this is the best day in a long time. Everyone should be super excited about this. I do have one question. I'll just put this out there. And I know we don't know the roster, but what's your guys' kind of expectation on this next season? Like where do you realistically, like what do you want to see? Because personally, I've warmed up to the idea that, like, if they were 17, 18 win team this next season, I would be extremely optimistic. If they were like a bubble team, just missed out or just made it in, I would think that was very successful first year. I'm kind of curious what your guys' opinion was on that.
Well, my opinion is I think expectations are different, a little bit different for me than modest hopes. I still modestly believe that McCollum could get this team to the tournament in year one. I do believe that's very possible to do in this day and age of the portal and NIL. Is it going to be a lot harder because of the lack of funding? Yes. Would it be easier other places? Yes. But he just did it at Drake. Now it's a different animal, right? You got to win your conference tournament. It's just different. But he got my big thing here is, Tony, he redid that whole roster. 8 new players. Really nobody that played under DeVries played in year one.
It was a whole new roster, Drake.
McCollum. It was a totally new roster. And they dominated the Missouri Valley, and then they win the conference tournament and win a game in the NCAAs. So I do believe it's possible they get back there, and I don't think it's that far-fetched. So the ceiling is maybe for me, win a game in the NCAA tournament. The modest hope is make the NCAA tournament. The realistic expectation for me would be sort of like what we saw from the men this year, but it will look different, right? Maybe make the crown, or I don't want to see this. I think it would be a bad sign if this team totally tanks year one. That's not this day and age. You don't want that type of a transition, because Fran's team didn't totally. I mean, now they did miss the Big Ten. Well, they almost missed the Big Ten tournament. So that's not good. But how many wins did they have in the Big Ten, Tony? 7?
Sounds about right.
Yes. 7. And they won a game in the Big Ten tournament. So I think they can make the NCAA tournament with this guy, even with the lack of funding, because I think I have a better job of generating some funding here in the coming weeks.
Your last statement is going to kind of transition into what I'm looking at. I'm not even really looking at the on the court stuff. I'm looking at the off the court stuff. There is so much staleness and lack of excitement around this program. I care more about the off the court stuff in year one. I want to see people that want to talk to me about Iowa men's basketball in public.
100%.
I want to see excitement back on that. I want to see people showing up dressed like I am to games. Like, there was no identity with, like, we used to have the Hawks Nest, and they'd show up in those Hawks Nest t-shirts and blah, 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 blah. You know, you have the Izzo, and they have those shirts. Like, I want to see, like, Drake fans showed up in the white shirt and blue tie. I want to see this look at Iowa men's home games with the student section, fans, whatever. I want to see that stuff. I'm not as worried about the on-the-court product as I am the off-the-court.
Yeah, that's really where I am. So I guess I'm a little, like, beneath your expectation, Corey, in the fact that, like, I actually don't expect this giant leap from, you know, like, I guess it's not worst to first necessarily, almost, but we don't have the resources as such as Michigan, who had their turnaround. But I do notice that there's a lot more off the court interest now that we've hired McCollum just within the last, week or 48 hours. So that kind of segues into my other question I thought of, kind of like what Tony was elaborating on. So what sort of improvements do you want to see as far as fan experience goes, as far as fan engagement, or even Carver-Hawkeye Arena? Like, what do you think is best for, the future as far as, like, improving that? Because my thought was they probably told Ben in the deal that Carver's going to be renovated. That's probably part of the deal, right? Like, if he's here long enough, that there's probably an expectation that Carver's going to see some renovations of some sort. I don't know to what degree or how big or small, but that's kind of what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there were any promises about renovations.
The way that I understand it is a lot of that money of the $60 million has already been raised. There's a $60 to $65 million Carver renovation budget. Now, what they do with that, that's going to be the interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how drastic that's going to be. I mean, I know there's Beth has talked about this. Fran talked about it. I just don't know how drastic it's going to be. And I don't think I would be really surprised if that is was a big part of.
No, I don't think that's on McCollum's mind what Carver looks like. I think he's more worried about other things, but that does not mean it's something that should be a priority of other
He's
people.
the type of guy who I'm sure is going to say, if we do this the right way and we win, they'll show up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also think like Fran was in a different position because they weren't winning. They weren't winning enough.
Yeah.
They weren't winning enough to get fans.
Well, they weren't winning at the right time of the year. We'll just say that. They were winning, but they weren't winning in March.
I really do believe this hire. Would you agree with this, Tony? This hire from Iowa is almost like some of the Iowa State hires. But like Fred Hoiberg's very green. It was very green when he got to Iowa State, but it was a really good hire at the time. Young guy, who was an exciting person. This is an exciting person, not just because of what he did at Drake, but certainly his resume at Northwest Missouri State. But then TJ Otzelberger, young guy, but polished, right? He's not a suit and tie guy, but he likes to wear those tight shirts that accentuate the biceps.
I'm going to say I was not TJ Otzelberger. Look at his resume before he was hired at Iowa State. UNLV was about to run him out of town, actually.
Yeah, it was a little different, but but he had successes.
I think Ben has a better resume than Otzelberger did. I mean, if you look at pure winning D2 is not. I've said that it's a big jump, but you could also argue he had 5 D2 titles because they were going to win the COVID year, and that year didn't happen. Like Northwest Missouri State was going to win it. The COVID
You don't know that.
You don't know it, but they were going to most likely. I mean, you look at what they're. I think they only lost like 1 game that year too. Like it was one of his most dominant teams. If you look at that, like you don't know, you can't say it, but I mean, he won 4 D2 titles. That's tough, but the competition goes up too. You know, he performed in March. March was one of his biggest things. Like that was one of my final check boxes when I saw what they did against Missouri. Like that was like, oh, yep, I'm 100%. Like I was always going to be all in because I'm such a diehard fan. But like he performed in March. Like the pressure in March is unreal, and the big dance. Compared,
you know what's amazing to me is we've had like 500 people on this stream for 2.5 hours, and it's been basically sitting at 500 this entire time. I mean,
excitement's there. The excitement's there.
There's excitement here, and anything else, Dom?
No, that was really all I had, honestly. Yeah, it's a great day to be a Hawks basketball fan, and I think really good days are ahead.
Absolutely.
Good show, guys.
Thank you, sir. Okay, a couple things. We got Vincent, I think, is maybe our final caller of the day before. Of course, we'll be back. I'll be back later with Kashin as we talk about Iowa women's basketball. DC Hawkeye, thank you so much for the super chat. I wonder who are making the calls to these portal players. Probably Drake, former assistants, new Iowa assistants. Yes. And again, my guess is that Ben probably has an idea of whether or not he's retaining Matt Gatens.
Just on Twitter, someone said Bennett Sturts and Isaiah Howard are the 2 that are going to be following for sure.
Where when you say somebody on Twitter, I mean,
so I just looked at the tweet. I'm sorry.
This is an actual person.
Yeah, Mike McMahon is the person who put it out there. Mike Mahone. I'm sorry. I don't know how I said it. MikeMahon. Mahone Sports, Mahon Sports on X.
Who is this Mahone Sports?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what the tweet was. And
how do you spell this?
Mahon. And this guy is, I don't know. He's nothing really. He's followed by decent people. He's followed by Miller and Condon. So I mean, I don't know.
I can't even find this person. I can't even.
Mahon.
What are we doing here? I mean, I what's the X handle? Can you give me the handle?
Mahon Sports.
All one word?
Yeah. M as in Mike, A as in Apple, H as in Henry, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy Sports.
Okay.
Mike Mahone.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. Yeah, he is following.
Well, anyways, Isaiah Jackson and Sturts are the ones that are saying will.
Yeah, I
follow.
hesitate to repeat that just because I
know, I get it. I'm just telling you what I see and what's out
no
there.
idea
He's
who
not
this-
verified, but
Well, I don't care about it's neither am I, but there are reports out there that Isaiah Howard and Ben Sturts. Hey, if Bennett Sturts comes, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
I think we expect. Is it fair to say we expect that?
It's a fairly high likelihood.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Fairly high likelihood.
Phenomenal.
Because it sounds like Sturts is the type of guy that believes McCollum played a big role in making him, and he's loyal to McCollum.
So I wonder if Bennett Sturts entered the portal right now, where would he rank among the best players in the portal? He'd be pretty high, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He'd be better. Those guys that we read earlier, like he was Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy was Summit League, but the one guy was from Valpo. And so
I would say he'd be higher than the two we listed.
And that's so. I mean, boy,
I would also say he'd probably be higher than Brock.
Brock.
Well, Brock's in the portal. I'm just telling you. I'm saying we're talking about where
He would be
ranked.
higher than Brock.
Yes, I know. I'm just giving some fans a point of reference because some fans may have never heard of the Eagle Staff kid from North Dakota because it's North Dakota, or they never heard of this Valparaiso kid. A lot of people.
Who would you rather have back, Bennett Sturts or Owen Freeman?
Sturts.
I agree, and you get Freeman for 2.
It wasn't even. I wouldn't even think about that.
What about Sturts or Dix? They each have a year left. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Because we know what Dix can do at the Big Ten level.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take Dix, but it would be very close. And I'd love to have them both, but I don't think they'll get both. Can you imagine if they got both of them and they started alongside each other? I don't know who'd play the 3 and who'd play the 2. I don't think either one of them is going to play the 1. But we can just, we're just having a.
Yeah, I mean, that's the. I think he'd be in that Josh Dix tier. If we're talking about ranking him as a portal addition, I think he would be in that Josh Dix tier. That's a good comp. I mean, you said it. He's a Missouri Valley Player of the Year, and his usage rate is just off the chart. Like how many minutes he plays and how highly used he. It's not like he's underutilized. It's just, he's the guy. All
right, let's go to our final caller of the day. We got Vincent here with us. Vincent.
Corey, Tony. Hi. Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hello,
we're doing good.
Well, I know we got some news this morning with McCollum, but don't hate me, but is it okay if I play devil's advocate for a moment?
Oh, no.
So,
yeah, sure. Go ahead. We're 2.5 hours in.
No, I was kind of researching McCollum last night, and you guys have pointed this out, pretty much all day or during the show. Everybody has the same things to say about him. He is like the who knows what in regards to college basketball. His knowledge other coaches that are successful now that are still in the tournament. I think one of his proteges or guys that he coached with is at Texas Tech. They've all said the same thing. When I got questions, I go to him. That's what they do. I guess my concern is, or me playing that devil's advocate is, it scares me to death that this is another Todd Licklider style of offense, which, I'm not saying it's now, but I've kind of watched some stuff on him, at least last night and a little bit this morning. And I hope that that's not the case. But do you think his style and his coaching philosophy is going to fit well into the Big Ten? Do you guys think it's going to transition well?
You watched game film, I'm guessing, correct? Is what you were saying when you watched?
Just snippets, yes.
Okay. Have you watched any of his interviews, like actual on-camera interviews?
Only 1 or 2, but real short ones, Tony.
Yeah. There's some out there that, and we alluded to this earlier in the show, he adapts his style to what his roster is. He knew he had a short roster this year. That's why he played the pace he did. If you look at some of his Northwest Missouri State teams, they averaged in the 80s.
Oh, good point. Okay, good point.
So
my next thing, just real quick, Vincent, to respond, and I'm kind of agreeing with Tony on this, but I also want to say this. I do think it's better to look at what he did at Northwest Missouri State if you're looking for evidence of how he's going to fit into the Big Ten. And I know that's sort of ironic. I'm saying go back to his D2 level to
No, it's a good point.
D1,
Good
but
point.
I need a bigger sample size with a different roster. He was there for
Right.
10, 15 years, wasn't he, Tony? He's there.
And he was established at Northwest Missouri State, so he had his program and his culture there. Where Drake, this was, man, put together what you can. Here you go. Best of luck. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is at the mid-major level, and you get.
And by the way, it is.
and you
It is.
lose
I'm
the whole
not saying
roster.
Iowa's going to turn into the next Virginia. That's not what. This
No.
is not a Tony Bennett team offense. But remember, when you win and go to Final Fours, pace of play is not going to like. We were
No,
all
I get it.
celebrating Bo Ryan
get
a little bit ago because Bo Ryan went to Final Fours, right? Bo Ryan didn't play some up tempo. I mean, we don't need to go to the other end of the spectrum. I agree with you on that, but I think you got to have somebody who understands the value on each side and who can be somewhat balanced so that you're not way over here or way over there.
Have you guys seen his this is something I saw last night. I had no idea that McCollum or his teams were rated that high, but have you seen his teams shooting efficiency or percentages over the last 5 to 6 years? Tony, you might hit, Corey,
it's
you might have,
very-
it's like top 5.
It's very hard to find true efficiency numbers at D2. If you found them, let me know.
No,
I've found
I
points
did.
for.
Okay,
Go ahead.
my bad.
No,
No,
go ahead, go ahead.
I didn't look at him myself. I just when I seen the rumor mill out there, I'm like, okay, who is McCollum? I want to know more about him. And so there was quite a few videos on him and how he does his coaching. He's looking for the best shot possible for his best player. And that makes sense. That's why also his shooting percentages on a year-to-year basis. I guess if you look at him over the last 5 or 6 years based off of, and I'm trying to remember the source. I just can't right now. I'm just on a lunch break. I apologize, guys. But at any rate, he's like top 5 for like the last, I want to say 6 or maybe 7 years, but he's been number 1 or 2, either 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 of those years. So when you look at how his philosophy works, and it's also about cutting. Another quick video I watched is he tells his guy or his players, anytime you see a back or a back of the head, you're automatically cutting to the basket. You're trying to make sure you're getting the best offensive advantage that you can as a player, which also that kind of leads to the high percentage shooting with his team. These are things I didn't know, but in the same token, I'm like, man, is this going to be, I hope it's not another Todd Licklider style of offense, because we all know we've watched that. It's real tough to watch that. But Tony, you kind of answered that. Not to say that we need another transition style solely focused offense, but man, I can't. 34-point games. Those are tough to swallow.
I will say this, and I want to say I was of your same mindset, Vincent, when I first heard about Ben McCollum. I was like, oh great, here we go, Todd Licklider again. Do I really want to suffer through this? Like you see the pace of play this year. You just look at the surface of, okay, what's he doing at Drake this year? What's he doing?
Right.
Oh my gosh, they're the slowest team in the nation, or one of the slowest team in the nation. Like, do I really want to subject myself to this? Then once you peel back the layers of the onion to see, well, what did he do at D2? You know, what does the guy say? Listen to some of the more in-depth interviews and stuff like that. All my concerns were alleviated, and I do not think it's going to be anything close to that.
Oh, perfect. And I haven't done that yet. I haven't looked too much into his tenure with the D2 school, but that was just one of those things I was curious to. And then the last question, Corey, I know you got a show later that you have to do, so I'll try to make this one fast. NIL, I know, is a huge factor in today's college basketball. It's going to be for Iowa. I've heard, at least on sources that you can see online, a lot of NIL dollars weren't coming in from those that could really contribute due to Fran being the head coach. Have you guys seen or heard any validity to that? And if so, do you think that those numbers are going to come up now that he's transitioned on?
Well, short answer, yes. I mean, they're going to be able to generate more buzz. Any funding that they lost with the firing of Fran McCaffrey, they will gain back. I don't want to say tenfold with this hire. And I don't know to what extent, but I think my prediction is that Ben McCollum, just with the hire, will get some people back that have been gone for a long time. And because Fran's never been warm and fuzzy, right? We've said that before. He was never warm and fuzzy.
Well,
Even
that's
when he
why
got
the owners wouldn't.
Well,
Sorry to cut you off.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's probably some people that would say that. Then there's other people who, you brought up, was it you or Dom brought up the Richmond game? Like, there's some people that he's lost along the way for various reasons. And there's some people that maybe were lost back in the Alford era. And some of those people may never come back, till death do they part with their grudge. And that's their right. But Tony, I mean, would you agree with that? I think I don't know where the funding is exactly right now. I know there have been numbers tossed out there, but I think they'll be able to benefit on a number of levels immediately. And with success, if they can have success early to some extent, that will only improve.
The way that I've understood it is it's already improved by at least 50 to 75% off of last year's number. And that was before the hire was even announced.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, the number that I heard was we were at roughly 1.5 last year, and before anything was announced, we already gained 800,000. If that helps you with putting numbers into perspective.
Well, what I was curious too is Fran. He's made the comments publicly. We need to help aid us in our quest. We need X amount of dollars. I think his last assessment was we need $6 million in the NIL bank to kind of put us where we need to be. But I guess the problem was Fran. And I guess Fran's been at benefits or he's been at social gatherings with either alumni or those powers that be that donate to NIL. And he's really rubbed them the wrong way, which I know other people, I know Ryan earlier said that he's had good conversations with him, but supposedly these donors are just like, I wouldn't do it for Fran. So that was kind of the understanding I had when it came to his NIL bank and what was or was not there. I don't know if there's any validity to it. But that's just what I've heard.
It was put out, and this is public information, and he's been on the show too. J.R. Koch put out that it was 1.2 million this year on Twitter. That's how much the total budget was. I would like to think he would know as a connected source since his son was on the team. Fran put the number out there, 5-6. I think he said 6.
Right.
With the number that I threw out there, we'd probably be at a total of 5, and that's before the McCollum hire was announced. So you'd like to think they could get another million somewhere and be competitive. I will also echo Ryan's sentiments from earlier, and Corey knows this too because he was there one of the times I met Fran. Like, he was nothing but nice to me. Now, maybe he doesn't know how to treat and glad hand and quote unquote kiss ass the big donor money. I know me. I'm just saying that.
No, that's what I've heard though. Like,
yeah.
He was pissing people off that donated, and that's why the money wasn't there.
Well, again, I don't think it can all be placed on Fran, but I also don't think it can all be placed on his off-court interactions. Some of it's
very true.
Some of it's the on-court antics and how they perceive him on court. I think there's some older people that I keep saying older people. It's probably not all older people. There's some people that have the money that just didn't like it, didn't approve of it, didn't approve of his style, even though he's toned it down these last couple of years because he went from fiery red-faced Fran to, in some people's minds, apathetic Fran. And
hands in pocket.
Yeah, hands in pocket Fran. Maybe he's like that. Maybe he's like, was it Lenny of Mice and Men that had the little dead mouse in his pocket? Maybe he was always petting that little dead mouse. Was it Lenny or was it the other one? Which one of the, you know what I'm talking about, Vincent? Have you ever read of Mice and Men?
The book. Yeah.
I have not. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, you're right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
It was it was the big guy. But anyways, So I think some of those people will come back because they appreciate. Now, here's the deal. This is going to sound stupid, but people who have money oftentimes are very frugal. I've observed this with people who have a lot of money. Not that I'm of that class by any means, but I've observed that some people who have a lot of money don't spend money on anything or very frugal. There's other people who have a lot of money and they will spend money for the strangest reasons. So I say that because if we want to be hyperbolic here on this show, tomorrow's press conference at 3:30 could play a big role in funding he gets right away.
Can I say something?
How
that
he's
was just
addressed and
posted
how
about
he's
that?
introduced and how he addresses the fan base tomorrow at 3:30 could have a significant impact. Tony?
There is a email that's circulating on social media that was sent to the Hawk's Nest, the students' Hawk's Nest.
Okay.
It says, "Hey, Hawk's Nest, we have a new men's basketball coach and need your help in Iowa City. We want you in Carver-Hawkeye Arena lobby, North Lobby, Carver-Hawkeye Arena at 2:45. You need to wear a white button-down shirt or white long-sleeve shirt. First 100 students are there, get a gold tie for free." So they are going to embrace this look that I was talking about. And we need that excitement, like I was telling Dom earlier. Like, this is the stuff that I'm more worried about, the off-the-court stuff. Like, does he win this press conference? They're trying to get excitement around the press conference and with the student section there. Hopefully, this parlays into him knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, let's hope. Also, let's hope it parlays into some of the portal guys that we had stepping back, because I agree with you guys. I think Koch, Sanford, they're some key pieces that he can certainly utilize. I know Freeman's not going to come back, but I think he'd be a good post presence in that offense. But I agree. I don't think he's going to demand too much NIL money. But other than that, I appreciate you, Corey and Tony, taking the call. I'll just give Fran some much due respect. 15 years, he brought some excitement to the program. I don't have any ill will towards Fran. I just think it was in the university's best interest to look in a different direction, and to thank him for what he did do for the last 15. Other than that, guys, have a good day.
Thank you, Vincent. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, Vincent.
Yeah, I just had to say, apparently somebody over at KXNO is repeating the report about Sturtz and Howard, because somebody just texted me about it and said, I just heard this on KXNO, but they don't remember who it was that reported it. So it's out there. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire with these things.
A lot of people are saying he used to be a Missouri Valley beat writer.
Yeah, so he probably knows Ben McCollum, would be my guess. I got to go through these real quickly because I got to get out of here. Dom, I'll send you a PayPal. Thank you. Appreciate that, Dom. Anybody who's interested in donating to the show, I do appreciate it. 3-hour shows, impromptu 3-hour shows do sometimes interrupt the day, but that's what I signed up for. So I do appreciate everybody being here, and I've enjoyed this show. And Tony, thank you for being here as long as you have. Why are you so blurry?
I don't know. My camera, I noticed that. It was something with, I don't know, the auto adjust feature or whatever.
Is this the same camera that I endorsed, right?
Yeah, the Logitech. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the question, Mr. Satman. Other than Sturtz, anyone at Drake we can be excited about? Well, it sounds like Mr. Isaiah Howard potentially will be one of those guys. So I do see that 37 people have retweeted the report from that Mike
Mahone.
Yeah.
Or
Mahone.
Well, and Banks and Maneu
yeah.
are the other two. Or how do you say that? Maniwa or Maniwa?
Emmanuel. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's their big. He's their 6'8" big. Apparently, Mike Mahone worked at Drake. He's in the know.
There you go.
Wow.
And the more you know, right? Sorry.
All right. So I'm just going to retweet it real quick since apparently it's legit.
Oh, hey, quickly approaching 500 portal entries for the day. Nearly 25% in today than we saw in the entire 2024 cycle.
Yeah.
So just today alone, we've already got to 25% of what was in the 2024 cycle.
There will be plenty of opportunities to. Yeah.
Plenty more are coming. Don't worry.
Let's see here. Press conference. Yes, 3:30 tomorrow. Will be on the YouTube channel, and I will plan on. I'm going to be there. So.
How hard is it for you? Do you just request the press pass or something like that? Like, what's that process like? If you can share, I don't even know what's that like.
For a press conference?
Yeah, or you can just show up, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the press list, so obviously I'm not there every press conference. But I guess I think I've got an open invitation.
I'm not saying you didn't. I was just asking, just for You know,
Maybe one of these times I'll show up and they'll say, "What the heck are you doing here?"
It's going to be interesting to see how he handles the media as well. I mean, this is going to be his first quote unquote big boy press conference. If you want to say that, like, I mean, nothing against Drake and the media following they have, but it is a different level.
All right. And let's see here. Barbara says, "How tall am I?" I'm about 6'2". Thank you.
I thought you were going to be much taller. Someone said that too. Before I met you in person, I thought you were going to be taller.
Okay. How tall?
You're taller than me.
How tall do you want to be, Tony? You want me to be
I thought you'd be around 6'5", 6'6", honestly. Like, just look at like the perception of what it looked like on the cameras. I thought you were a taller person. And someone else said that in the chat, so I'm not the only person who thought this. Someone did say that.
VMS says, "Tell them you know cash and they'll just let you in." So anybody that wants to cover now, don't do that. Grant says, "Do you think he'll bring any players from Drake over to Iowa?" I think we addressed this earlier, but I didn't want to ignore your comment, Grant. All right, we've got to get going here. James,
1 second. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me get. I'm gonna just got off work. I was just saying.
Wait. I got to log off, James. So if you have anything to say it now or forever hold your peace, and then I'll be back.
I'll just talk to you tonight then.
Okay. All right. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Do they give you a 3-hour limit on StreamYard?
No.
Oh,
have you followed the football shows? I've done close to 4.
Yeah, that's true. You've done 4, yeah. When I want to get a nap in too, so
you want to what?
I want to get a nap in before the game.
Yeah, Tony's got to get a nap in. I got to go take care of some stuff. So, folks, it's a good day. I think we can all agree it's a good day. Iowa hires former Drake and Northwest Missouri State head coach Ben McCollum to be the men's basketball head coach at Iowa. And we will be back later today, Iowa and Oklahoma on the women's front for a spot in the Sweet 16. It only gets better today at 3 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Tune in live for myself and Kasheen Alexander following the game, hopefully talking about another trip to the Sweet 16.
Hey, there we go.
Got your camera back.
Well, I changed the resolution. It was in full high definitions. Then I just went to standard def. So now you do not see me in full HD. This is just standard def.
It was blurry HD is what it was. That was HD. Yeah. So, Tony, thank you for being here over the last couple hours.
No problem.
All right, folks. For Tony, I'm Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'll talk to you here in about 5 hours after Iowa and OU.